Need better organizational skills.
Because you got powerful legs. How'd you get the physique? Was it gym or how'd you get the physique?
I've always been.
She's actually not got powerful legs. Do you shower in your dressing room? Do you have a shower on the day of a fight or not? Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
I'm sure no one will mind.
Move him out of here, Darren.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing, nutters, messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump! You know what I'm saying?
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 532nd edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings, and joining us on the call, we have Andy Patterson and Matty Di Gialinardo, going live on YouTube from 8 o'clock every Sunday evening. The Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes. Hello to everybody listening through the week on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Don't forget to leave a review on the podcast player of your choice. Throughout the entire month of July, nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable. What better weekend to leave 5 stars? The next weekend, Spence-Crawford. We've got Inoue against Fulton as well coming up during the week. This is a 5-star week of boxing, if ever I saw one. The boys are absolutely buzzing there. Let's get stuck into the action from the weekend. Get that out the way, so to speak. No disrespect to the people fighting, but it's all about next week. For me, George Kambosos Jr. is in action. Last night in the Fire Lake Arena, Shawnee, Oklahoma, a majority decision win over Maxi Hughes, scores of 115, 113, 114, 114. And a quite mind-boggling 117, 111 for Joseph Mason. I don't know, Matty. I hear a lot about bad scorecards in this sport, and generally I don't get worked up about these kind of things too often. Now, I admit maybe it's because we've interviewed Maxi Hughes in the past. Maybe it's because we've seen him suffer defeats and repeatedly come back from them. I've seen him boxing in front of 200 people in a Belfast hotel below British title level to get where he is today, to get where he was last night. Perhaps all of that emotion of the journey is clouding my judgment here, but last night's decision and the depraved nature of one of those score totals in particular could make someone maybe question the whole business of boxing.
Yeah, at least Maxi Hughes is at the end of the day there, Steve. It was a very abhorrent decision, and here, I think myself and maybe it was Rob are, having to eat some crow on this one because we said, at least it's at a neutral venue and we know the judging will be fair. And, that didn't exactly go out as we had believed it would. It was really unfortunate, and I myself in our prediction league, Steve, I had Cambosos on points.
Me too, yeah.
So what are you going to do about that? I've been hosed.
Take those points, baby, Maxi. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been hosed many times, so I'm just going to run with it.
You have no shame, man.
But I scored the fight myself, 115 to 113 for Hughes. I thought you could really only say that Cambosos won. I think it was rounds 4, 7, and 12 clearly. There was some swingy rounds in there for sure, but you could at least say that Hughes might have had an argument that he won 8 or 9 rounds of that fight. But then one of the judges coming across with 117 to 111 was absurd. I don't think a draw was out of the bounds, because if you look at the stats, and yeah, I take CompuBox stats with a grain of salt, especially landed punches, but Cambosos was working more in most of the rounds. The difference in their total landed punches was could be made up in Hughes' big fifth round. Kambosos outlanded Hughes in 5 of the rounds. Of course, quality of shots notwithstanding, etc. So it's not insane to think that maybe it was a draw, or in a really bad pinch that Kambosos nicked a close decision. But 117, 111 is absolutely insane, Steve. And if you have a chance to look at those scorecards, there's some odd things that stand out if you were kind of tracking round for round that didn't make any sense. So I don't know what to do about it. Bradley was pretty perturbed, and there is really no recourse for fighters when it comes to things like this. So, Maxi travels thousands of miles over here, puts on his cowboy hat, and puts on a really what was probably a career best performance for him, doing good work. I think he might have buzzed Cambosos to the body and to the head at different points.
With the elbow.
Yeah, well, you got to mention the elbow, but it was yeah, he put in a really good performance. I thought that he deserved to get a close decision, and it went the opposite direction, and in a manner that is just unbelievable. So, boxing just showing its cruel face again. And I don't know. We'll see what happens with these fights coming up this week. Hopefully, boxing doesn't piss on its own foot.
Matty, one interestingly irrelevant thing I noticed from last night was on BoxRec, it says the doctors were David Lovelace and Larry Lovelace. Not that I want to cast aspersions on the Lovelace brothers, but that sounds like a medical disaster waiting to happen, doesn't it, that?
Well, yeah, you got to think Linda Lovelace, and she was in the pornography movie Deep Throat. So it makes you wonder who was sucking off who, Steve, doesn't it? It all starts to fit together.
Absolutely. Shout out to Linda Lovelace, getting a shout out on the podcast. Hit the like if you're a fan of Linda, if you even remember her, maybe not. Back to the boxing, Andy, very quickly. If you're talking about scoring criteria, aggression is obviously taken into account, but it's supposed to be effective aggression. I'm not sure how much of George Kambosos' aggression was actually effective. I mean, the sport's called boxing for a reason. Hughes, from what I saw, was stepping off, countering, landing clean punches to the head and to the body, as Matty said. Kambosos had his moments, there's no doubt about that. But you're talking about awarding him on one judge's card 9 3-minute rounds. He did the better work than his opponent for 27 minutes of the fight, according to Joseph Mason.
Oh, mate, it's pathetic. It's again... It's just a regular occurrence these days. In terms of scoring the fight, I thought Maxi won the fight. Although I was seeing kind of wild scorecards. I mean, I'm seeing not many cards given to Cambosos anyway, put it that way. But they've been shitting on Maxi for his style of boxing. But that's how he fights. Anybody who watched that for the first time would say it's shit. But that's how Maxi goes about his business. And I thought he done the job with it. Whenever he kind of stepped into his shots, that he would try to fake it, and then he'd be stepped back. That time, Cambosos is throwing his shots, he's throwing short. Then Maxi's then catch them on the counter. It was it's odd. Just come back to the scorecards. So as I said, I'm seeing cards from as far as 10-2 to Maxi to a draw. So, but no many people were giving it to Cambosos. I thought he was simply manoeuvring about the ring that entire first half of the fight, first 5 rounds, manoeuvring about the ring, not really doing anything. His jab was nothing. It says he had issues with Maxi's counter punching style. I think it was about at the end of the 4th. I think it was. I think his corner was even roasting his ass a little bit about him not really doing anything. Then he's come out in round 6. I think it was probably one of Cambosos' better rounds, but he just looked lost throughout the fight. I just think he was either thinking about it too much, or he just his feet was poor. Feet work was poor. Sorry. And it says he's probably more a kind of counter puncher himself by nature. And he's just getting befuddled with the movement, and he's just absolutely confused. And obviously, with Hughes being a southpaw, probably causing problems as well. That's what's caused the cut across Maxi's left eye, I think it was. So look, I've seen Cambosos a number of times now, and I've still yet to be impressed with him. Okay, he backed it up against Lopez, but if Lopez would just get his shit together, I would back him favourably in a rematch.
The Lopez fight, Andy, now seems to be. Kriegel asked the question before. We've asked the question on the podcast last week, for example. Was it an anomaly? It seems like the evidence is starting to show clearly. Yes, it was.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he's got the Lee Selby win on his record, but at that point, Selby's done it the weight. Or he's shot by that point. Sorry, by the time he's coming up, and as I say, what was Lopez's situation coming into that fight? Was he unmotivated? Was it personal issues? Look what he can do when he's fucking totally switched on. And you're talking about Stevenson fighting him next, or at least that's the talk with ESPN. That's just pump the brakes. I think even his dad. I don't know if anybody caught the conversation between Stevenson.
Yeah, it was interesting, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, take your 25%, kid. Take your 25%.
He kept telling him to fight Haney. It wasn't like, we'll fight you. It was like, go fight Haney. Go fight Haney. Like, don't fight us.
Take your 25%. I think, hey, look, the dad knows. The dad knows. He knows there's a couple more paydays to get made here, by the way. He's got himself back in the shot window. He doesn't need to be taking any risks at this point right now. And Stevenson would baptise him so bad, man, into retirement. It doesn't even bear thinking about.
It'd stop him, wouldn't he, Stevenson?
Oh, mate, it would be brutal to watch. It really would be. So, as you say, it's starting to now kind of like point to an anomaly. Was it a fluke that night of beating Lopez? He's shown nothing to me in the last 3 fights that makes him anything special or even warranting a world title fight. Maxi Hughes, his team should be campaigning with IBF or the IBO, but get the rematch. And get them, getting that Mantre shot, just cordoned off just to let him get a rematch in there, because it was complete shit. I see somebody in the chat there saying about Mickey Duff, and that was probably a fair comment. Maybe weak management, by getting the, one of your own judges in the, ringside and that. But look,
last night you're talking about?
Aye.
Maxi's got no pull though, has he, whatsoever?
Well, I know, but you try your best, but you just don't know about these talks and that. But in the day, he's took his title over there, and he's got hosed. He's got absolutely hosed.
Well,
so
if I'm correct, I think that was for the number 2 slot for the IBF.
IBF, yeah.
And so that puts him in the running to fight Gustavo Daniel Lemos, who also has a victory over Lee Selby, stopping him last year, and now being out of the ring for close to 18 months at this point in time. But that's a fight. Lemos is still, Selby's is the only standout on his resume at this point in time. So Cambosos isn't necessarily dead in that fight. And if he somehow picks up that belt, he's back in the market for a big payday. So I think they'll be trying to sidestep Shakur, et cetera, if they can arrange this Lemos fight and see if they can't pick it off from the generally untested Argentine fighter.
Good shout, Andy, there for Matty. I'd forgotten about that fella. Do you remember he knocked out Selby and there was kind of grainy footage going around at the time?
Who was the Argie's name again, mate?
Lemos or something, Matty? I'd forgotten all about him.
Gustavo Daniel Lemos.
Yeah. Selby's last fight in March 2022. Do you remember? Yeah, in Argentina.
He beat the shit out of him, actually, if I can recall. Yeah. He hasn't fought since then, actually.
No. Grossly inactive. Like Matty said, 16 odd months at this stage.
Christ's sake.
So it's about right for these days, but yeah, I don't know. As for last night, Matty, you mentioned Tim Bradley. Obviously, he was questioning afterwards whether the judges are qualified to make these life-changing calls. And I mean, I'm talking about the wide card. We're all speaking about the wide card, but none of the 3 judges gave Hughes the fight. He didn't win the fight on any of the 3 cards, even though Kriegel had it wide. Bradley seemed to think he'd win. I mean, how can we have such a wide disparity of opinions and viewpoints? Maybe we're being swayed by ESPN. I don't know. I've cut, by the way, Matty, before you jump in there, Bradley's rant, in case anybody hasn't heard it. Let me just play it now. It'll only last for about a minute or so.
But I'm just saying, these judges need to be accountable for this. Something needs to happen. They need to get suspended. They need to get fined. We need to find out, why did he judge the fight that way?
Well, I think part of it is...
That's what I'm saying. There's no protection for the fighter.
It would be great if we could talk to the judges immediately after the fight, but they're all protected. We have no access to them. The commission will not allow that, because at the end of the day, these guys have to talk to me no matter what hell they've been through. And the guys who put them through it because they don't judge what's happening in the ring have no accountability. They walk out of here, go have dinner, do whatever they're going to do, go home to their families.
Yes.
And they have nothing they don't have the tears in their eyes. He doesn't have to go back to his family with his kids without that belt that he promised. I mean, it's just unjust to keep seeing this, and that's why.
But I'm just saying,
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, by the way, Bradley's got some fucking nerve by we complain about fucking judges after what happened with him and Pacquiao.
Fuck off. We're not retracing this again.
We are. Come on now.
Steve, how long did you want to put into going over these fights? Do we have time to go over Pacquiao Bradley and the scoring?
No, we don't have time to go over that. So, close the loop, literally and metaphorically, on last night. We're going to the undercard. Matty, if you have anything final to say on the headliner.
It's just ridiculous on what's going on. And the little idea that popped in my head, I think, because the TV cameras, obviously, I mean, they get to pick their angles and stuff like that. I think it might be time to outfit judges with a camera, keeping that footage. And in situations like this, they need to go in front of the commissioner, or whoever it might be, and they can explain from their vantage point why they scored a fight a particular way.
Mm-hmm. People have spoken in the past about having certain fighters doing it, but you'll have the same issue with like football, the way they don't have former pros refereeing because they say there's like inbuilt biases and they've maybe, I don't know, fought the guy who's judging, and then you've got to kind of, move them around the world and stuff on expenses. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, now let me also just go back to Kambosos did out-throw Hughes in pretty much every round. And in a place like Oklahoma, you think about the culture there, Steve. I mean, I know you haven't probably been to Oklahoma, but it's in the West. It's just north of Texas. Mm-hmm. It's raw. It's rugged. So the guy that's going forward and throwing more punches is probably a fighter who is more akin to the culture of where that commission is located. I think that might be worth pointing out.
No, that's a fair comment. That is a fair comment. Also a fair comment from Mark Stanton, who says, wait until Ludi Bella gets Sean O'Hagan's room service bill. Which is a bit of a brutamente comment there. Andy, onto the undercard. I know you saw Keyshawn against Patera. Someone was talking to me during the week, as many people tend to do. I think it might have been Declan Graffin, aka Declan Graffin, was on about Patera being kind of an under-the-radar opponent. I don't think he was suggesting for a second that he was going to win the fight, but he was unbeaten in 6 years, former European champion, decent to a level. I think he kept the pace was good. Again, if it was a 12-rounder, he might have had a little bit more success. I think this was a decent step up for Davis, considering it was only his 9th fight. It was a nice move from Top Rank.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, Patera's decent at a certain level, and we've all said it before. No, everybody can be world class or world champions, but you need to have a development fights. And to be fair, I thought it certainly was a development type of fight. I mean, he had decent, he had his moments in the 10 rounds, I suppose, as you mentioned. If it was a 12-rounder, it might have been a wee bit different. Was it the 8th or the 9th? I think he dropped Patera. I think it was. It was the 8th. And I thought he landed quite a lot of power punches and that. So again, it was impressive to a point. I would like to have seen him get the stoppage. I think that maybe they kind of cemented that a wee bit, especially with Patera's background and being decent and durable to a point. But I've got to be honest, there was moments during the fight it was a wee bit kind of boring and repetitive, to be fair. And that, and look, some of the skills and defensive stuff that was quite good. I don't know if I missed it or if I maybe missed. Called it whether or not, but did anybody think he maybe got hurt a wee bit with a body shot in the 9th round, possibly? Keyshawn, that is.
Not sure. I can't remember that, Andy, to be honest.
So I'll just maybe keep a wee eye in the future for his reaction to body shots, possibly. But as I says, it was okay. It had his moments, but it was a wee bit boring and a wee bit kind of, how can I put it, overly cautious, I suppose is probably the word I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. Matty, your opinion on that one? I know Giovanni Santillan was on the undercard as well against Eric Bone. I didn't actually see that one. I'm not sure if they even televised it. Apart from that, some decent performances. Troy Isley getting a win over Antonio Todd. Todd's a bit of a survivor. I saw him fighting against Joseph Hicks on one of the DAZN cards recently. He's a decent enough guy. A shock loss for Stephen Shaw as well. I don't know whether he should carry on fighting or not. His heart doesn't seem to be in it. He looks older than Glenn Johnson's dad as well. I'm not sure. Not sure officially how old Shaw is, but he should maybe think about packing it in. Hemi Ahio looks exciting. David Tua kind of fighter, winning against the big behemoth, 300-pound Amron Sands from the Bahamas. And then Jeremiah Milton, he got shit all over by Tim Bradley. Beat Willie Harvey, aka Lump Lump, on the undercard. That's quite the box rec photo as well. I'll put that up for the fans while you're talking away there, Matty.
Yeah, I didn't catch the Ahio fight, unfortunately. I wanted to wait for something or other at that time. But as far as the Davis fight goes, we'll start at the top. I think what's impressive about what he's done the last couple fights, I mean, he's basically won by shutout against two guys who have been fought at a pretty good level. Obviously, Burgos has fought his world title level before. Patera is at, definitely, he's probably the definition of, high caliber European level fighter. Neither of these fighters had been stopped prior to Davis, fighter of them. Patera had never touched the canvas before Davis had fought him. And although both went the distance, I feel like he hurt both the times he put Patera down. Yeah, he might not be a puncher like a Tank Davis, but he does have some pop. And I think he's moving up the ladder very well of kind of looking at the way they're moving their stable. I think Top Rank is doing the best job with Keyshawn Davis right now, because the rungs are kind of very clear on what they're doing right now. The Giovanni Santillan, Eric Bonet fight was very good. It could have gone either way. I think Bonet is a bit tougher than you might assume from his resume. Most of his losses coming against quality opposition. Santillan, before the fight, was kind of discussing how he's just kind of shut out of the title picture because this, that, and the other thing. And I think he might be out of the title picture just because he's not that good either. He in this welterweight division where the killers usually exist, regardless of the era, I don't think that Santillan has what it takes to pick off a title, except maybe in some odd scenario. So, but that was a good fight, an entertaining fight where both guys had their moments. Jeremiah Milton, I don't think he's going to be the goods at heavyweight. I respect him. I dig him. Kindred spirit, brother man, with the bullying thing. I get it. But
did Bradley bully him afterwards? I felt he's just not that good.
It doesn't suck. Like, now you're 30 years old, an adult, and you got this little bald 150-pound guy fucking bullying you.
150-pound guy in my arse, man.
Oh, he's put on some weight, I'm sure. Yeah, he's probably 170 now.
He's a fucking boulder sitting there, man.
I haven't seen him standing for a while, so I'm sorry. All I just see is his bald head behind the.
Kriegel something rotten last night. Yeah, Kriegel was ready to throw hands.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I think Bradley might think, with all the changes at ESPN, that he might be out of a job, or he has to take on some sort of a different personality or something. I don't know, but we'll see what happens over there at this point. I will say, a brief detour, Stephen. I don't know if you guys agree with me. I think that this card was the least company man that Bradley has sounded in his tenure with ESPN, at least off the top of my head.
Possibly, but I always look at the people that they're going after. That's, Macklin used to be like that on Sky. They're happy to be from company man when it suits. Like, they'll shit on the likes of Kambosos, they'll shit on the likes of Jeremiah Milton, but not necessarily the sort of favoured guys. Like, I thought Keyshawn did okay last night. Andy was a little bit more critical, which is understandable. But, like, Bradley wasn't shitting on Davis, who's his number one. But you know what I mean? They'll pick their targets, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I thought he said that he was making mistakes and things like that. You have to, I don't know, Steve. I thought that he was picking out his mistakes. He was pretty good about calling out some things, Davis letting just there being just empty space, not filling it, just standing in front of him at times, et cetera, et cetera. I thought that he wasn't overly critical, but he was critiquing. So I don't know that I necessarily agree with you there. But
what did you make of that, Matty? I'm all for new ideas, but the whole idea of him miking himself up into the ring and talking to, was it Tessitore as he went in? Then it sounded like it was just someone underwater.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that went too well, to be honest.
I don't know what would possess a man to wear their gimp suit in public, but here we are.
They wired him up and interviewed him as he was doing his ring walk, and it went okay at the beginning, but then it just got a bit awkward after a while because the connection wasn't the greatest, and then they kind of had to cut it. So yeah, I'm not sure. That's a bit of a thumbs down. And also on the undercard, did you see the thing where for the whole round they didn't have any commentary? They listened into the corners instead. I thought that worked a little bit better.
I did not catch that, or I wasn't.
Oh, that was the Ahio fight. Sorry, you didn't see that one. Yes, sorry. Yes.
There you go. Stephen Shaw getting knocked out by that Aussie was something too, because he was just kind of standing there and taking his shots, and then just one kind of mowed him over, and that was that. Shaw seems to be done now. I think he might have been hiding glass. Now we know why he wasn't firing back much against Ajagba. That was pretty disappointing, all in all. The Troy Isley fight, decent. Isley is a pretty good fighter. don't know if he's going to quite get to championship level. But Antonio Todd, good fighter. He's definitely proven to be kind of a solid test for guys as they're coming up. His level is pretty known, so you can kind of figure you out more or less. But yeah, it was a pretty decent card that started fairly early. I think all of the action in total was probably about 5.5 hours of boxing going on. So it helped to fill what was otherwise a boring day for boxing.
Absolutely. Right, let's sweep up the rest of the action from the weekend before we go on to the big uns. I didn't see the undercard to this one, Andy, and I know you didn't either over in Dubai. I didn't see the main event itself either, apart from the icing. Alfred Lamptey getting a win, Jadier Herrera, Arnold Kagai, we've seen him before, we kind of know what his level is. Jazza Dickens against Hector Andres Sosa. Didn't see what happened in the build-up to the ending, but the ending was quite something.
Yeah, mate. I think it was a left hand that he took just to kind of like in the follow up to it, and then the guy just stepped him an evil right hand. He's got no defence really. He just basically dropped. I mean, we're talking sleeping territory here, mate. He should have brought his sleeping bag when he was that. By the way, I think he was done for a good while as well, possibly. I think a lot were kind of saying it's an upset as well, and it really is a contender for knockout of the year as well. To be fair, so. And another IBO title changing hands there, but at least this one was emphatic. Actually, no like Maxi's getting swapped about. But I don't know about Dickens now, mate. What do you think? Maybe retirement possibly, because that's been a long career now, and that's a bad ending.
Nobody's ever really done that to him before as well. He's always been a pretty solid guy. I know at the Rigo, they obviously had the broken jaw and all, but he's been pretty resilient, like you say. But it's a long old career, and I don't know, he might just put it down to just getting caught with that shot and have another run. But yeah, it's not looking great for him, Andy.
He's fighting at weights he doesn't belong at. I think that's part of the problem.
The other thing as well is with the hands being done, he actually kind of like slightly turned into the shot because the shots kind of come down at a kind of downward angle, I'm sure. And it's kind of it's caught him. He just like basically stopped him and he's dead in his tracks. Just thunderbolted a shot, man. Because if you just look at him, the way he drops, man, the whole body's just lifeless. There's nothing. He's not even trying to stop himself from falling down, trying to get back up, or even kind of like trying to scrambling to get back up. None of that. Completely iced.
Absolutely. It was the weekend of the IBO titles, actually, Andy. Just sticking with you there. We had Jazza getting iced. We had Maxi losing his, and we had Lee McGregor as well going in for the vacant on Friday night. If the Harlem Eubank Ishmael Ellis fight didn't put you to sleep, it was well worth staying up. I watched the main event in its entirety. Really good scrap. I've sort of slagged the Solands off before. Bring back Fat Mick, but this was Fat Mick fair, I thought. Andy, the fight between McGregor and Eric Robles Ayala. Not really two big punchers, both stylistically a little bit open defensively, but it made for a great scrap. And I think the right man won in the end. McGregor was absolutely devastated, scraped himself off the canvas to congratulate Ayala with a touch of class at the end there. Really good scrap on a Friday night.
Yeah, it was a ferocious pace actually by the Mexican as well. Fair play to him. I mean, I'm losing count how many of them have come over here now actually and done the business. It's fucking frightening. And to be honest, you're kind of surprised he didn't even get jobbed on the cards. To be fair, but look, it was a cracking scrap. Give and take over a number of rounds there. I think McGregor was starting to kind of fight from range a wee bit and shooting uppercuts up the middle. Both were were getting some good shots in that as well. But there was times McGregor was catching, was landing. Sorry, a few eye catching punches, but. In the end, though, it was. I don't think we can complain. To be fair, I thought it was a fair decision. I think it's an awful decision for McGregor in every sense because it's been a career of just floating along. He's had nothing really a great success since the Farouk fight. It's been treading water since then. I don't know if he's been a victim of the MTK fallout. I think a lot of fighters possibly have been the result of that, but. It's like an L like that because he's been missing for so long. Taking that L, it's a hard road back actually. To be fair, I don't know where he fits. He's gonna have to come back down in level, potentially even get a rematch with that guy if he can get it. Because moving forward, I don't know when he moves forward. Actually, I think he's got to remain at that level and just be active, get the British title possibly, and then build for there. But. That was a bad result for him actually in every sense, just because of inactivity and everything else on top of it. So,
who's holding the British right now at 122?
Oh God, I don't know. We need Aussie for these ones, don't we? Let's have a look.
Yeah, somebody's playing cricket with old people.
Oh, is it Liam Davis? Oh, he's fighting Cunningham next week, isn't he? He was the European champion. Let me see. Yeah, he's the British. Yeah, British champion.
What was the weight
as well.
division? Sorry,
122.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Liam Davis.
That's a decent fight.
I don't know whether they'd make that now. Davis seems to be very much in a different trajectory. I know it's McGregor's first loss, but he feels like he's been on a bit of a subtle decline, and Davis is definitely on the way up in different promotional entities, although I suppose money talks at the end of the day at this level.
Davis is fighting Cunningham
Jason
next
Cunningham,
week,
next week, yeah. Good fight.
British and European fight, aye. So
yeah, I'm kind of curious about that because didn't Cunningham get whacked by Tete and then Tete popped in the next fight?
Yeah, so they've kind of forgot about Tete and pushed Cunningham back into a decent fight, yeah.
He beat that Chilean, the one that
Gonzalez,
beat.
yeah.
Gonzalez, aye.
Yeah. They're building a nice little stable in Telford, actually, Andy, for Liam Davis.
Yeah, they are, aye.
What do you think then, Matty, about McGregor Robles? You tuned in, didn't you? You were slagging off the Harlem Eubank fight beforehand.
Was I?
Yeah, I think you were.
Probably.
Well, let's just say you were anyway.
Yeah, he got the stoppage, whatever, good for him. That McGregor Robles fight, though, that was a fantastic fair in there. Kind of thought after about 7 rounds that it looked like Robles might be taking full control of that. And then McGregor had a good stretch, only for Robles to really close out very strong in the end on pulling out a deserved close decision. I don't think if McGregor had won that fight close that you could have really complained either. It was very tight. There was definitely a couple of swing rounds in there, but generally speaking, I just thought Robles did the better work, put his punches together better. But McGregor does look good at the weight. He filled out well. Curious to see where Robles goes from here. Maybe you're looking at the way he throws and stuff. Maybe we got ourselves another Lara on our hands. We shall see.
Absolutely, we might well do. Just anything else from the weekend, Matty, that I might have missed? I know there was a DAZN card. Well, for me, it was just barely a card. That Straffon went in against Jesus Bravo.
Didn't even watch that one.
Didn't me neither.
Yeah,
no, I didn't
the undercard though on that McGregor, there was a couple of real nasty upsets on that, weren't there? Like didn't Cash Ali lost on that one? Was it?
Cash Ali lost. Matty Harris lost as well.
Yep. And I mean, it gets to completely nondescript European, journeyman kind of fighter, just getting fucking bounced around the ring by a guy with substandard skills, and you're like, I'm not sure how anybody had faith in this guy. This is a fucking train wreck waiting to happen. But so yeah, it's kind of cool every once in a while when you see those random journeymen pick off a victory like that. So forgetting his name, of course, making me the asshole of the day. But thumbs up, random journeyman. Way to go get it.
Yeah, we love a good random journeyman. The man who's on a journey himself down to New Zealand, that's Ryan Deal Force, throwing in 10 New Zealand dollars. He says, Isaac Cruz beats everyone at 135. Shout out to Ryan Deal. He will feature later on in the pod with some of his fantastic photoshopping. He's thrown in 10 New Zealand dollars, so shout out to him for that one. Shout out to Mark Wharton in the chat. Let's have a look through the chat, actually, shall we? See who's knocking about before we go on to the action for next weekend. There's Des, a staple of the chat. Shout out to him. Yimmy Appy as well. We've got AP in there. We've got Mark Wharton. We've got Michael Thompson. We've got Mark Stanton. Ryan Deal, the aforementioned super chatter. Jim McDonald Boxing's floating about in there as well. M. Lithgow 1983. We've got Johnny. We've got, who else have we got here? I think AP used to be AB. We've got number 1. Michael Thompson's with us. So is Danny Young. James O'Connor. If anybody wants to come on and talk Inoue and Spence-Crawford, by the way, let me know and I'll throw the link into the chat. We've got Dale Baker. We've got Porky's Corner. Is that a real Porky's Corner? Who knows these days? You wouldn't even know. A lot of fake names going on. Let's see who else is floating about there. Josh Ford. Joe Kennedy was in earlier as well. Shout out to him. Just scrolling on up here, see if we can find any new names. Doesn't seem to be. There was a lad Richings earlier. Thomas Newman's there. Shout out to Albert Ross. We've got Captain Casual. We've got Take Ames as well. He's floating about. Shout out to Take Ames. Yeah, I'm gonna put the link in the chat, actually. So if anybody wants to jump on, you can show yourself.
Yeah, they need to kind of actually probably, take this long enough for Rob to get a say in on this, because I know he's kind of looking forward to these fights.
Yeah, we've thrown the link in the chat there. So if anybody wants to jump on and come and talk Inoue and Fulton-Inoue, I should say, actually, let's give the champion his credit. And Spence-Crawford, is that the right way around? Spencer's got how many belts? 3 belts. Spence-Crawford, is that fair enough?
Yeah, I think you can have to say that since he has more of the belts. And they're just flipping a coin for who goes out win to the ring too. They're being pretty cool on that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Go shout out to them boys. Yeah, let's keep things flowing along as quickly as we can. Shout out to Gary St. Clair. I don't know if anybody remembers this guy. Superman, originally from Guyana, now based in Australia. He last fought in June 2013. He's coming back 10 years later. He's 48 years young now. Could be the future of what division is he fighting at? I think it's around super lightweight or something. You might remember he fought guys like Lovemore and Do back in the day. He went in against Jackson Asiku. I think he fought Amir Khan. What year did he fight Amir Khan? Yeah, 2008 for the Commonwealth title. Went the full 12 rounds as well. So shout out to Gary St. Clair. The future of the super lightweight division returns after 10 years out, age 48, next weekend in Australia. Might be on pay-per-view. Probably is. Usually most things are. Also, shout out to Sinisa Estrada. Friday evening, they're not going up against Spence-Crawford. This is on ESPN. She's going in against Leonela Paola Udica for the WBA, WBC minimum weight titles. You've also got some decent scraps on the undercard, actually. Abraham Nova against Jonathan Romero and Andres Cortez, 19-0, going in against 18-1 Xavier Martinez.
I think that's a real interesting. I don't know what the odds are going to be, but I kind of feel like that one's a pick'em fight, Steve.
Take those ones away, Matty, because I think that's a decent little card, apart from the women's fight. I joke, of course.
Yeah, the Cortez is undefeated. He hasn't fought a high level of competition yet. Xavier Martinez, once beaten. I'm trying to remember who his defeat was. He lost fairly wide, but I don't know that Cortez is going to bring that same kind of style to the ring. Cortez at times kind of fights like a puncher who isn't a puncher. So this could be an interesting scrap here. I expect Cortez will probably be favored by the books, but I don't think I'd entirely write Martinez off of this one. It's a good one. I'm not sure about Romero against Abraham Nova. I do think that Nova looks a lot better at 130 pounds. He's a pretty lanky guy. And with Shakur vacating, I think there's definitely opportunity for him in there. So we'll see what him and his giant mascot head thing do this time. Hopefully they get him the right credentials so he gets to make the ring walk instead of being up
Supernova.
The bleachers. Yeah, Supernova. With his John Mark Mormec beard. But Sinisa Estrada, I haven't seen much of her opponent, but it's gonna be a tall order to take out Sinisa. Again, one of the most talented fighters in women's boxing, throws excellent combinations, very well balanced. Grew up in the East LA gym, so she can bite down and fight. There's only a handful of fights I think could be competitive for her, where she's at currently at minimum weight up to 112 pounds. I'll be more excited if one of those happens. But this is a decent card for sure for a Friday night from Top Rank.
Yeah, on the subject of Xavier Martinez, actually, his loss, Matty, was to Robson Conceição, but the fight I remember most was 2 fights before that. He fought against Claudio Marrero, who'd been previously stopped by Kid Galahad, and Marrero gave him a hell of a time, dropped him a couple of times, I think, at least. So the warning signs that you were throwing out about Martinez, I think, are just, Matty.
Yeah, but he can also punch a bit too, and the Cortez untested on that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I kind of feel a bit about Cortez as I feel about Arnold Barbosa, right? There's something that's just missing there. I don't know if Martinez is the level to figure it out, but this could be a good fight on the path to discovering the level there.
Absolutely. I was going to give a shout out to James Ledbetter, not to be confused with James Ledbeater. Shout out to James. Haven't seen him in a while. Hope you are well. Also, John Mulhall's always good for a few quid. He's throwing in €12 there for us. So shout out to John Mulhall. Very much appreciated from you. Andy, I was going to raise a very important matter with you actually over in Russia. Albert Batagaziev, 8-0, 6 knockouts. He's going in next week against a 17-0 fella, El Terrible. That's an interesting nickname, very original. From the Dominican Republic, 17-0, 11 knockouts. Francis VR Frometa. Not sure about his credentials. He hasn't really fought anybody of note. But this Batagaziev, former Olympian, I believe, a good step-out win against Jezreel Corrales. Definitely want to keep an eye on, I think, if we can fit him in next week.
If you can fit him in next week, mate, or even this week, actually, he's lucky he's even getting 30 seconds here. It's an interesting one, mate, to be fair. Obviously, some Russians are getting ranked, some aren't they? There was a card on there last night with some, a couple of, suppose could have ranked a couple of Russians in there, but they're no, whatever reason, but, well, you know the reasons. That Batagazev, again, he'll be loyal to the, to the Russians anyway, because obviously with him winning the gold medal, they kind of set him up with a flat and a car and that type of thing. So really embedded with the Russian state, so to speak. So I doubt he'll be basically moving countries to try and get world title opportunities. And I think he's the kind of more poster boy, the kind of Russian boxing scene at this point. So we'll wait and see how he goes forward. But I'm assuming that card might be available on YouTube. Who knows? But the Russian cards don't really much to write home about these days, to be fair. And they're always bringing in, you mentioned, guys like Corrales, so you guys like Panama and Dominican Republic and the Ugandans. That's what they're bringing in these days to have fights.
Good luck to all them boyos.
And those Dominicans, I mean, it's such a big question with what they are. We've seen some that come in with undefeated records and they just get flattened, and then we see some that are pretty sound fighters at the end of the day. Lukowicz is the one that brings a lot of them over. So I'd kind of look at that and see if he is involved with the Dominican fighter. Because if he is, that's a real wild card. Because we know Samson. I mean, he throws a lot of darts, but when he hits them big.
Yep, absolutely. Shout out to Chris. One Shot Lovejoy is thrown in 79p. Also, next weekend, let me see here. Over in Telford, Andy, we mentioned this earlier. Liam Davis going against Jason Cunningham. Moses Atorma's on the undercard. He's a bit of a prospect to watch. Ethan James hasn't had a knockout, but he's going in against former pod friend James Moorcroft, one of Aussie's mates from Wigan, who's been in before. Not too fussed on the undercard, Andy, but Liam Davis, Jason Cunningham will help ease us into the evening and on to Spence-Crawford, hopefully. What do you think about that one, Davis, Cunningham?
Yeah, it should ease us in, mate, but you know what Uncle Frank's going to do, mate? That fight's not going to appear till 11 p.m. And I want to get my pip because I want to get up and I'm going to be watching Crawford Spence live. And I didn't want to be going to my bed at fucking 11:30 at night after watching two guys fight for the fucking British title. So I want, Frank, if you're listening, mate, just try and get us a 9:30 start at the latest.
No chance.
Get the fucking fight.
Davis Cunningham will be the chief support to Spence Crawford if Frank has anything
Jesus
to do with
Christ, man.
One of your kids is going to get diarrhea and literally and figuratively shit all over your plans.
Oh, man. Just hopefully no, mate. So that's what's going to happen. But yeah, it'll maybe ease us in, mate. But I don't know, it could ease us into a fucking sleeping contest as well at the same time. So we'll wait and see. I think it could be putting there about 4 alarms on and asking for a fucking couple of phone calls next Saturday.
Are you going to try and stay up then, Andy? Are you seriously?
No. I'm going to go. I need to go to bed, man, and get a couple of hours and then get up, mate. I can't do all-nighters anymore. I'm officially fucking washed. But yeah, I'll definitely be getting up for it. You getting up? You need to get up for it, mate.
Nah, I don't think so. I always watch them the next morning without knowing the result, so it might as well be live.
I'm going to phone you.
I'm going to put it on airplane mode or whatever it is.
I'm going to go next door and get the guy's pigeons and then send you a message.
You better watch it, Steve, or I'm going to spam every way I know how to contact you with the results of the fight, and it's like going to be in the headlines of emails, etc., etc.
I'll watch it at some point. I might get up. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I can't. He's not going to get up. He's like, I'll just
no, I got it. What was the last one? I got up for Saunders, Canelo. Got up for that. I accidentally got up for Ruiz against. Was the fat mess that he fought? What do you call him?
Ortiz?
Ariola. No, Ariola. Because I couldn't sleep, so I technically got up and watched that. So yeah, I have got previous form. Right. Anyway, Ames is here. Post-fight pod, says James O'Connor. I don't think so. Well, you never know. Stranger things have happened. Ames is here. Techie Ames. You getting up, Rob?
Rob?
Oh, it is you, Ames. I thought it was Rob with one of his students.
Spicy bean burrito. No,
me listen to him here, sliding in on the old StreamYard chat. Are you getting up next weekend, Ames?
I'm barely up now myself. I've been doing a chuckle and been falling asleep left, right, and center. But yeah, I'll be covering it for seconds out, so I'll be up.
I can see you next weekend, Ames. Hair all over the place, scruffy beard. During the Davis Cunningham fight.
Classic, yeah. I'll be covering Davis Cunningham, then rocketing back down from Telford to Birmingham to my desktop where I'm at now. to then cover Spence-Crawford card. So I'm looking forward to it, to be fair. Should be a good weekend.
Absolutely. Who's not looking forward to them? Alan Stacey's looking forward to it. He's throwing in a couple of pounds. Shout out to Alan Stacey. He said, lads. Absolutely, all four of us. Shout out to the lads.
I am so glad it was you this week, Steve. I would have been fucked.
We're with friends here. Ames, anything from the weekend? Are you as incensed as we are at the Maxi Hughes result?
I had a very rare weekend off, so I was trying to keep away from the boxing, heading into what will be like a big working week this coming week. But I caught some of the highlights of. I did what you did, where you don't check the results and you watch it the day after.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of was avoiding the boxing asylum chat, and I flicked through the Maxi Hughes fight, watched the first few rounds, and it was kind of like just double tapping on the next 10 seconds of the fight to kind of see where's Cambosos going to come in. Is he getting his success now? And I just kept finding my way, like tapping through the fight and skipping through bits and not seeing anything really coming through from Cambosos, and just hearing these little sound bites of the analysis of their own unofficial scorecard, having Maxi Hughes in the lead. And I was thinking, all right, Maxi's got this in the bag, really. And it kind of like, it was a bit of famous last words from you guys last week, I guess. You kind of saying that this is on neutral territory and there's no real favorite or dog in the fight or house fighter. And I guess when it came to the scorecards, they were read out, I guess we found out there was a house fighter, and that being Kambosos, who got the result. I've caught some of the discussion online, and obviously people were up in arms about it. I haven't really seen the full fight to really kind of share that same thought. But it is a shame when, especially, said it before, when boxing kind of spews out a load of shit stories, and then you get like a good story with Maxi Hughes climbing the ranks and getting an opportunity that he then gets trodden on here for Kambosos, the fighter with a bit more profile, to get the nod and set up a big fight. So hopefully, like, it's a weird thing to say, but a loss against George Kambosos, who's held world titles and been at near around the top of the sport, for Maxi he can bounce back from that to what, but it's just it's a shame that he didn't get the nod, which he seemed to deserve on the night last night. Otherwise, it's caught a little bit of the the misfit side of the less said the better. We'll keep this about the proper traditional boxing here, and that's kind of been my lot from this weekend.
Excellent stuff, Ames. Feel free to stay with us as long as you wish. We're going to be going on to Spence-Crawford a little bit later on and whatever else after it. Just before we go on to the fights, I want to just give a very quick shout out here. You might have seen in the pod description, there is a link to a Just Giving page. I wanted to give this a shout out for our friend Andrew Neal. He's one of the nutters. He's running the Belfast City Half Marathon in September. His son has a rare life-limiting muscle condition, which I'd never heard of, actually, called myotubular myopathy. He's a good guy, is Andrew. He's doing the half marathon. He's raising funds as best as he can. So if you have a couple of quid spare and you were going to throw them in as a super chat, go and throw them into that Just Giving instead. So shout out to Andrew for doing a great thing there for young Sonny. So shout out to him.
If the rest of us were capable of running, we would also run for charity. But physically,
we'll metaphorically run for him, Matty. We'll do as best as we can.
Amen.
Absolutely.
We're there in spirit, since physically we're blobs.
We are indeed. It's there. It's down in the chat anyway. If you have a spare pencil or two. Right. Into Japan, Tuesday the 25th of July. Everybody's working from home. They're hammering the streams. Breakfast with the Monster. God knows what time it's going to be when poor old Matty will be getting up to watch this one. Not really much on the undercard, Matty, but we'll go on to Robeisy Ramirez. First of all, making the first defense of his WBO World Featherweight title against Satoshi Shimizu. Satoshi, if I am correct, was the pseudonym of the originator of Bitcoin. So perhaps Bitcoin Rodney could be ringside for this Robeisy Ramirez performance. If he were to be, Matty, what would he be looking out for from Robeisy?
Well, you know what? I mean, if he is the inventor of Bitcoin, then he's a fighter that's going in there with nothing to lose, right? He already has it all, so he'll swing for the fences. I haven't seen him prior. Robeisy picking off the title in the fight against Isaac Dogbe. And obviously a deserved winner in that fight, but didn't necessarily impress in what we know he has. And it'll be curious to see if he goes the Guillermo Rigondeaux kind of route in what he's doing, or if he is a little bit more flashier, a little punchier. So we'll see what happens. I'll tell you what, though, these Japanese fighters, rarely are you going to run into one who's just going to let you sit there and quietly and safely box off the back foot. So I imagine that Satoshi will be in his face at times, and it will give him the opportunity for stoppage potentially. But it also could be another cold moment for him when it comes to remembering what it's like to be in the professional game and not in the amateurs.
Yep, completely agree. We're going to move on from that one onto the main event as swiftly as we can. The Ariake Arena, Tokyo, Japan, USA showing it on ESPN Plus. I imagine Sky will be showing it as well. WBC and WBO World Super Bantamweight titles on the line. Stephen Fulton's 21-0. Naoya Inoue is 24-0. Andy, what is Fulton bringing to the table that can trouble the monster? Or to look at it another way, what things does he do better than Inoue for you?
Well, he's a good all-rounder, I think, in terms of his discipline. He's a good Philly fighter. He can be aggressive when he wants to be, but at the same times as well, as when you look at that Figueroa fight, I don't think if he was to fight Inoue the same style, I think he could come into some problems. One thing that I'm interested to see is the weigh-in. I want to see the size difference, because obviously Inoue is the one coming up. I want to see how he's. I know it's only, what is it, 4 pound, 5 pound difference. So just want to see what that kind of entails. I think he will. He's definitely a better boxer, I think, as well. And I think he works better off the back foot as well, Fulton, than what Inoue can. Inoue, I think, when he gets caught going backwards, he can take shots, especially down the middle. He hasn't really got a lot of great head movement. I think he can be a bit kind of flat-footed as well. So I'm slightly edging towards Fulton in this fight, to be fair. But again, with the judges and that, I think Inoue with his power might make it interesting down the stretch. I'm kind of talking my way out of it, but I'm going to stick with Fulton on decision. As to other things that he does well, is I think he says he's got a better defence. He can fight off the back foot, as I say. He can definitely fight aggressively if he wants to. But I also think he's got better footwork and he's got a better defence than Inoue. So the difference, the X factor, obviously, is the power. That's the main thing. If Inoue can start targeting the body, slowing down the feet, because we all know man doesn't live by his head; he lives by his body organs. So if you start hurting those kidneys and the liver and that type of thing, just slowing them down a little bit, I think potentially Inoue could get to him late. But I just think with the Philly experience and his all round the kind of like general boxing IQ, I think Fulton has got more than enough about him to basically hold when he's got to. I think he might be the stronger man on the night or the day of the fight, just purely because it's his weight class and we just don't know what Inoue's like coming up. And again, as I say, if he's able to take the power, I think that is enough for me to suggest that Fulton has got enough in his locker to then pull it out in the stretch and maybe win a close, but as Tommy would say, a competitive, clear decision. So I'm going to go like a kind of 115-ish, 116, 112, 115, 113 type card.
Regarding the cards, Andy, you mentioned the judges there. The judges are, in fact, Canada's Richard Bluine, who I've actually never heard of, Italy's Guido Cavieri, who I remember as a referee back from the European title days, and Spain's Manuel Palomo. The referee is Hector Afu. You might remember him, Andy, when we done the live pod between Jake Paul and Tommy Fury. He was the kind of fussy, over-officious referee on display there, as it happens.
Well, let's hope he's no fool a drink then on the day of this fight, and just let the guys get on with it, So, yeah, we don't need a fussy referee. We certainly need experienced judges. No chicane. But look what happened last night. It's like every other couple of weeks we're talking about some either dodgy official, referee, or judges, or some shit going down. Dodgy sanctioning bodies, sanctioning fights, or no stripping titles quick enough, that type of thing. Just give us what we want. We've got 2 great fights to look forward to next week. Let's hope each of them deliver. Don't need any bullshit in either of them either. So just let the fighters fight. And if it comes down to it, let's hopefully both end in a knockout so we don't have to worry about the judges in the end,
Yep. Sure, the boys in the chat are having a chat there about this particular fight. Give us your predictions, Fulton versus Inoue, so we can come back next week and gloat or cry. Give us your predictions, Fulton versus Inoue in the chat. Inoue and close points, maybe a split decision, says Matt Butters. Danny Young says, I think Inoue will get the hooks to the body going early. What else have we got? James G says, I think Inoue wins, but I'm not sure with the size. This is surely his limit. Joe Kennedy's there, head of the Prediction League. Shout out to him. He says, think Fulton will cause lots of issues early, but expect Inoue to find his range eventually. Yeah, that's where I'm kind of looking at as well. Captain Casual, that's Damo. Inoue, contentious points decision. That's what I said last week as well. But I can make as many predictions as I want. You know what I'm like, boys. I say one thing in here, put another thing on the Prediction League. I just do what I want, Ames. Tell me your prediction then. What's going on here? Fulton's the bigger man, but what impact will that size have on an opponent who started out his career a bit full stone lighter? Is Fulton going to use that size, that strength to bully him? This is a guy who sat in the pocket with Brandon Figueroa. He's going to be big on the night, Fulton.
First of all, I just want to have a word with the chat when we've got 2 serious fights coming up this weekend, and these boys want to talk about the social media influencers fighting in the chat and what's going on here. But yeah, no, look, I appreciate the size being a big factor, but I think one of the big factors that's kind of coming out right now in the fight week is the issue of the hand wraps, Steve. Like, you'll always kind of wonder, like, this freakish power and where it comes from, and if it's legitimate, if it, fighters are born with it, which I think fighters generally sometimes are if they're trained for it, and what Inoue kind of has been, blessed with here, or whether there's something more to it. And if I was reading what I was reading right over the week heading into this fight, what Fulton's camp have been complaining about the hand wraps and how they're done over under the Japanese kind of boxing commission rules, and looking to kind of maybe protest that. It's an interesting kind of tack to take, whether it's just mind games or just kind of, putting their kind of stance on or putting their mark on the fight. You would have thought something like this would have come out when Butler went over to Japan and fought in a way, because Joe Gallagher is long on the tooth. He would have sussed anything like that going on and would have made a complaint, or at least spoken about that after the fact if he found something unfair or different to what he usually kind of faces, or what his fighters usually face in Britain or abroad, or wherever he's under any jurisdiction he's fought before. So whether there's anything to that, we'll find out. I don't know what the actual Japanese commission rules are in terms of stacking, but
Stitch Duran said it was bullshit. I think he got interviewed last night saying it was a pile of nonsense, but who knows? I've seen some dodgy hand wraps. I remember Oscar getting some kind of like binding done on his hands because he's got kind of like dodgy knuckles, things like that. But you would think Joe G, he'd be on top of that. As you say, he would be on top of Oi, that type of thing. But some commissions are different, but again, are they even qualified? Some of these commissions, they even pass judgment on some of these hand wraps. So that is the key thing.
It is a fair position to take, though. Bradley was explaining it, and it basically gives you another full layer on there. And you have to consider the idea, like, we talk about, the difference between 8 and 10 ounce gloves in some fights. Well, how many ounces are you adding to your hands when you're taping and gauzing again?
He might be up to super featherweight by the time he's wrapped his hands.
I'm fucking telling you. But it's a fair position to take, and yeah, it might be a little bit of head games, but it's something to look at. I don't think Inoue is a cheater. I wouldn't say that whatsoever. The Vegas commission, when he fought over here, apparently signed off on it too, and that's the way that he wraps his hands. But it is something that is, if it's technically not allowed, well, now that somebody's noticing it, they should pull the plug on it. But we'll see what happens.
I think Ames Bradley mentioned it, but he or was it Bernardo Asuna was making the distinction between the single stacking, which was done before, and this is maybe double stacking, which is where the issue lies.
Yeah, no, that's from my knowledge is what it is, and that can give the fighters edge in a fight, especially someone like Inoue, who's he's been a destructive force throughout his fights. So we just. We'll soon find out whether the power is legitimate or not. If he's suddenly, picked up on it in the fight week and he's not allowed to do it, and then this power or feigned power goes and Fulton, just dominates him throughout the fight. But in terms of the thing about the size, look, Fulton, has he ever really, from my memory, has he ever really fought that way? Kind of utilizing his size or power in that sort of way. I don't think he kind of really kind of capitalizes upon that side of things.
He hasn't knocked anybody out in 4 years.
No, that's what it is. So I don't think Fulton will be looking to kind of, unless something changes in the fight, because I think Fulton has that ability and the IQ to adapt in a fight, and he's kind of switched and adapted in fights in the past. The one fight in particular, not where he's adapted or switched, but more where we've kind of seen a lot from him, is that Brandon Figueroa fight where he's had to kind of dog things out and fight and really kind of come through the mire. If those fights were, the old 15-round adage and all that sort of stuff, he might be on the end of an end of a loss on that fight. But like there is a lot of dog in Fulton. There is a lot of ability to kind of wear things out with Fulton as well. But I think he'll have to come through those big moments in the fight to really pick up a win. But a points victory, I feel, is out of place for Fulton unless he like really kind of like skates away with it through the 12 rounds.
Well said, Ames. A few boys have jumped on. Danny Young's here. We'll go to him shortly. Head of the Prediction League, Joe Kennedy's jumped on with us as well. I was going to save this for Rob, but he's not here yet, so obviously we'll get stuck into it. Ames has brought it up. Joe, hand wrap gate, Inoue leaning on some Japanese privilege, they're saying. Rob put up a suspicious video during the week about Inoue apparently bitching about random drug testing around the time of the first fight. Then all of a sudden he's injured and the fight is rescheduled. That was on Fight Hype. Other people have gone in on him about that. How can I subtly put this, Joe? Is Inoue a big cheater?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really put much credence on your man Sean to tell at all, but I think there is some good points being raised. And when you see someone rising through the levels and rising through the weight, and the power carrying like as emphatically as it has been, I think it's natural enough to have some questions asked. But I don't know enough about hand wraps or anything like that to really have much of an input there. But I think it doesn't look great from Fulton's team the way it's gone out. I think it looked a little bit pathetic the way it kind of came out in the fighters meeting. It looked a little bit like snide and kind of back channeling instead of like, it was obviously agreed beforehand. Like these things are not like left up to the week of the fight. So I just thought it was probably more of an attempt by Fulton's team to throw a spanner in the works and disrupt fight week for Inoue. But I think it probably backfired a little bit on him.
And what about the fight itself, Joe? I know you've made your feelings known in the Prediction League, and I did a Substack article where I sort of canvassed everybody to see what they were coming up with. I can't quite remember what you said, Joe, so do you want to rerun it for us here? How do you see the fight going?
Yeah, I like Fulton. He's a pretty versatile fighter. I think he could fight at distance, or he can also mix it up in the inside, which people have talked about in the Figueroa fight. And so I think he'll probably fiddle Inoue around a little bit early on, keep mix up the range, fight inside, fight on the outside, and keep Inoue guessing and keep Inoue from finding his range and really planting his feet and putting in those wicked body shots and getting his power shots off. I think it'll just take a little bit of time for Inoue to do that, and I expect him to come on strong in the second half of the fight. So I think it'll be a close win for Inoue after kind of pulling away at the stretch, but I think Fulton will give him lots of issues, especially early on.
Yeah, me too. I think Fulton's definitely present quite a few issues. Yumi Yappy says, Steve, can you ask Rapping Rob if he raps with his hands? I'll ask him absolutely when he turns up. What kind of time is it going to be for you, Joe, when this comes on? I'm losing track here. When is it going to be? The very early morning for you?
Yeah, it'll probably be about midnight when they're walking to the ring. I have two young kids at home, so I'm
no, are you talking New York time?
Yeah, New York time.
No, they're going to be in the ring at like 8 a.m. your time, Joe.
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking Spence-Crawford. Yes, Fulton Inoue will be 8 a.m. Yeah. So I'll be able to catch it with I'll probably have to watch it in my train.
There you go, Joe Kennedy's going to
fuck off, Colin sick. Be a hardcore Joe.
Yeah. Might do that.
Good stuff. Joe's on the train. Danny Young's on the hype train as well. You've seen Inoue up close and personal, Danny. Is it going to be another destructive performance similar to when he smashed Rodriguez to pieces against Fulton-Inoue? They are.
Great fighter.
That was a good job, Dan, wasn't it?
It'd be one hell of a fight if you could combine the two of them, wouldn't it? But yeah.
How's it going to go down?
I don't know, but I got to say on that when I saw him in Glasgow, I think it was the last time I had a hard on. I think it was it was pretty incredible, to be honest with you. Andy will tell you, but yeah, I'll be honest. Like I won't say anything bad about Fulton because obviously Fulton's not a bad fighter, but I think I'm just going with like kind of heart over head on this one a little bit, just purely on the basis of like. I don't know. I suppose I'm romanticizing a little bit over the fact that if Inoue does this, then like where does he sit? You know what I mean? Like because I don't know. Like, it's just just the style that he fights in and that. And again, I got nothing against Fulton, but I just think like we might see something special from Inoue, or at least I'm hoping we'll see something special from him. And obviously with the Japanese crowd behind him, and I think that Japanese atmosphere has to be factored in this, because obviously it's a very for a boxer, and obviously with like Fulton, the Japanese crowd behind him.
Oh, we've got two Danny Youngs there. Mute yourself, Michael. Do you want to hear yourself twice, Dan?
No, thank you.
Carry on, dude.
No, but yeah, I think the atmosphere needs to be factored in. Obviously, the fights in Japan are very different to those in the States and the UK and all that. There's no screaming and shouting. There's nice, polite applause and things like that. And obviously, I don't know. I look at it and I think sometimes it must be quite disparaging if you're in the away corner and you're getting some decent digs in and punches and you're not really getting any reaction from a crowd. And then obviously when Inoue, like he did against Butler, was getting those shots away and the crowd were getting excited and doing their clapping and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that might be a factor in this one. That might frustrate Fulton a little bit. But I just think it's going to be a great fight. I think it's going to be very close, and I think Inoue will just nick it for me.
We've lost Michael Thompson, unfortunately. Feel free to jump back on, Michael, whenever you can. Matty, Danny made a good point there about the crowd. I always remember one of the American journalists talking about Tyson against Buster Douglas, which was obviously in Tokyo, and he said that you literally had like one of the biggest sporting upsets of all time unfolding in front of everybody, and the place was like a mausoleum. Everyone is dead quiet, polite applause here. Buster Douglas is coming back, creating this sporting moment, and there's like no emotion whatsoever and no noise, basically, compared to what you would get in the USA or Britain or something. So the crowd is an interesting factor there you raised.
Well, it's funny. I think on a lot of like Tyson little documentaries and stuff they've done, Steve, where they say, and like they go to like some journalist or someone, they're like, and the crowd went totally silent. Like, they were silent for a lot of that fight, sir. What's your fucking point? But it'll be interesting because I don't know, the crowd won't necessarily be influencing the judges or anything like that potentially. This is just a truly interesting fight. One of those ones that's we're glad that it gets made, and hopefully it's on the up and up. Boxing has a big week ahead. It'd be nice if they didn't shoot themselves in the foot in some way, shape, or form. But God damn it, they with two chances, I figure they're gonna fuck up one of them. The question is, which one will it be? When it comes to Inoue, you got to think he started 108 and he's coming up to 122. Fulton was thinking about vacating and going up to 126 before this fight got on the table. So it's very interesting to say that at this point in time, I don't know if Stephen Fulton's size is going to be to help his successes, or if it's going to be to his detriment at this point in time. If he has trouble making the weight, it's going to be rough coming in late because Inoue going to be a few extra pounds. He should be nice and fresh, and if he doesn't get stopped or anything of that nature, groovy rock and roll, and he should be able to get late. And we've seen he definitely has power late in fights. But if he is safely making the weight, he's going to be a huge compared to Inoue on fight night. And, at that weight class, that 10-pound I can't remember if the IVF is one of the belts on the line or not for this one.
No.
I think, no, it's not. So the rehydration clause is not even in effect then. So it doesn't matter really what Fulton comes in at. But I think size could really play it here. And you have to think, Steve, that, we've already seen Fulton in with somebody who could punch and was physically much bigger, much stronger than Inoue. Brandon Figueroa is at featherweight now. We saw him handle Mark Magsayo just fine. He's not gonna end his career at 126 pounds either. He's a big boy. He's going up to 130. So I think that we kind of know what's happening at this point in time when it comes to what Fulton can handle as far as the physicality in a fight that might matter. So for Inoue to win, he's going to have to be accurate. He's going to have to pick his spots, and he's going to have to land very specific shots when they matter. And that's going to be at mid-range, because not only do I think, obviously, with the jab, Fulton, with his height and reach advantage, which is substantial, can control the outside, as we've seen against Figueroa, as we've seen against Angelo Leo. He can potentially control the inside fight too, even as a bigger man. So it's God, it's a damn interesting fight. I'm leaning for Fulton decision on this one. And it's definitely worth getting up for. It's going to be on at 6 a.m. my time. I'll watch it, be off to work probably about an hour later if it goes to a decision. But, I wouldn't be surprised if Inoue somehow lands a big shot late and just randomly out of nowhere too.
It'd be on about 12 or 1 o'clock our time, so it's well worth getting up for.
Oh my God! Yeah. It's by Steve. Like, like for those of you who might be waking up from a drunken stupor, it might be a struggle. But yeah, most of you guys should catch it on your lunch break, or try to extend that. Come up with some excuse. One last thing, Steve, I wanted to make this. I forgot.
Yes.
I think it'll be interesting to look at this and see if this is a ceiling for Inoue, in much the way that it was for Nonito Donaire. I see a fairly similar career trajectory between the two, and I'm curious if Inoue is going to be able to surpass what Donaire was able to do. And this was about his limit. Donaire picked up his title at 112 pounds, really couldn't find success at 126, Inoue at 108. Let's see what he can figure out at 122. Donaire's
Can you imagine if he does the business to and ices Fulton early doors? Holy shit!
Good, yeah, that's very crazy. And Nonito Donaire's first fight at 122 pounds was against the absolutely massive Jeffrey Matabula, who was 6 foot if he was an inch.
Chase Athletics, shout out to our American correspondent. He says, "Gentlemen, I work for an electric company and I drive really late and usually see Fulton running, but I haven't of late. Maybe he's in Japan. Do you think he stopped running, Matty? Is he going to be all fat?"
No, I think he's in Japan.
He's in Japan. Shout out to Chase Athletics. I haven't seen him for a while. Shout out to Michael Thompson's on the call, head of the Boxing Asylum analytical department. He's a tactical expert. So I'm going to hit him with this question, Michael. So Fulton, he's displayed a lot of adaptability in previous fights. He's shown he can win in the trenches. He's shown he can box on the outside. Matty mentioned Figueroa there, Angelo Leo. Boxed both of them on the inside. He wasn't phased by Figueroa's power. Stood with him, big unit, took the shots, landed them, went toe-to-toe with a couple of tough swarmers. Against Danny Roman, he dominated from the outside. Roman tried to be aggressive. He was never allowed to settle. Couldn't get much done. Then at the end of the fight, more adaptability from Fulton. He pushed him back, used his speed, his engine, turned the tables on Roman. Which style out of those two, or maybe a mixture of the both, Michael, is he going to adopt against Inoue?
Yeah, evening guys. It's good to be on again. Yeah, it'll be so interesting. I think the way I see it, as I sort of predicted when you asked for everyone's predictions, I think Inoue will probably stop him late because I think they're just, Fulton's obviously so technically sound, and I'm sure he's got a game plan for like every conceivable sort of scenario, as Ben Davison would probably say. But I think Inoue is so technically sound as well in his own right that I think just the power will make the difference for me. Like you say, I think Fulton can sort of navigate his way through any sort of fight, but I just think Inoue is going to catch him at some point. And but Matty make a good point. With Donaire moving up and everything. But I think it'd just be the edge. I think Inoue, just the power. I think Fulton might just run out of things to do with him, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to go around and get everybody's predictions. So you're going for Inoue. Are you going the stoppage route or are you going the points route, Michael?
I'm going stoppage, and also just quickly with the hand wrap thing. Just quickly, one in fight week with these fights, there's always a bit of this sort of like gamesmanship going on, isn't there? I'm sure you've seen it over the years. And also, why don't they just wrap Fulton's hands the same? And also, again, Inoue's been icing people outside of Japan anyway, so I don't think it makes any difference how Inoue gets his hands wrapped, as long as he's not going obviously with like plaster cast in there. I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think he's going to smash him out in the later rounds.
So this problem hasn't travelled clearly, but the power has definitely travelled in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There you are. Welling's coming out with a nice concise finish for us there. MB says Fulton on points. Quite a few people going for Fulton. I'm going for Inoue on decision. Joe Kennedy, final prediction?
Steve Wellington, classic late decision for Inoue.
Classic late decision. Ames, what about you?
No idea. I'm gonna go with Inoue late round 9, round 10. Sorry,
round 9 or round 10? Come on, Ames. Which one
round
is it?
10. Round 10.
Round 10. Des says, I mentioned this in Steve's column over at Substack, shout out. Fulton is strong, although not a puncher. I think he'll last into the championship rounds, and his strength will get Inoue's respect. Yep, can well see that one happening. Matty, final prediction for you, please, for Inoue Fulton.
Fulton majority decision.
Ooh, majority decision. Andrew, final one to you. Are you thinking along those same kind of lines as Matty?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking Fulton, close enough decision. I think the fans will be right into it if Inoue is successful with some of his shots and he's landing power punches and he's not really getting much back from Fulton. I think they'll be right into it. So if Fulton is able to start pretty well, maybe just keep the crowd out a little bit and just stick to his boxing. I think I could not easily, but I think he could pull off a decision. So generally speaking, you do tend to get pretty fair cards over their famous last words.
He could pull off a decision. Talking of pulling off decisions, Mark Stanton says this show is a tough wank tonight with all these boxing nerds. It's good to have the boys on. Mark Wharton says Inoue on points for me, just. Chase Athletic says more meat on the bones, Inoue round 12. Michael Thompson says, thanks for having me. You're very welcome, Michael. Feel free to jump back on if you want. If anyone wants to talk Spence-Crawford, we're going on to that next. The link is in the chat. Don't forget, everybody.
Rob better hurry up, man.
Rob better hurry up. Don't know where Rob is. Maybe he's been taken up by the old UFOs or UAPs, as they call them now, Matty. Unidentified aerial phenomenon, apparently. It's got a new name.
There you go. Or maybe it's unidentified alley freak, PH, and he's getting probed.
Rolls off the tongue there, that one, Matty. So to speak, as I was saying, episode 532, is it, Matty, we're on now? I think, is it?
That's what it says at the top.
That's what it says on the tin. Episode 532, Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm here. That's Steve. That's me. Andy's here as well. Matty's here. Ames and Joe Kennedy, head of the Prediction League. Right, let's move on to the big one. I'm looking forward to Inoue Fulton, I must say, but I'm just looking forward to this one a little bit more. Spence against Crawford. Let's get the official particulars going here. T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas. Showtime pay-per-view. We'll get it over here on BT Sport, which is now called TNT Sports. Ready for that explosion on TNT. Errol Spence Jr., 28-0. Terence Crawford, 39-0. IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO World Welterweight titles are all on the line. But let's get on to the undercard first of all. Before we do that, we'll go to you first of all, Andy. You can tell us what you fancy on this one. Justin Valoria, Brian Valoria's nephew's on there, as is Stephen Nelson, against Rowdy Legend Montgomery. Nonito Donaire, he has his fight moved here for the vacant WBC bantamweight title against Alexandro Santiago. And Isaac Cruz will fancy another shot at Gervonta Davis if he can get past the slippery, talented, non-punching Giovanni Cabrera. Any of that undercard get you going, Andy?
Nah, not really, mate, to be fair. Probably Cruz against Cabrera. I think it might be decent enough, but as you say, Cabrera hasn't really got a lot of power, and I expect Cruz at some point might get to him, but it might have problems getting to him actually as well. But I think it might be a distance fight possibly running over. Donaire against Santiago. This is a vacant world title. I didn't even know that until I read it this afternoon, actually. So I don't know how that's been wangled, but it's all about the main event, mate, to really be fair. I'm looking at undercard at the minute here. I'm
sad, Andy. Sad.
Trying to think. What's sad?
That you can't get into the undercard. I think Donaire against Santiago is going to be a really interesting fight. I don't know if they put odds back up against Santiago, only a slight underdog. He had a 115-pound draw with Jerwin in Cajas. This guy can really fight. This might be his moment. Donaire now 40 years old. Very, very interesting fight. I don't know if Mr. Kennedy is going to have it as one of the picks in the Prediction League or not, but it's a very good supporting bout for the main event. So I got to give him credit for moving this. It kind of sucks we didn't get to see it last week, but this is a very solid fight.
Yeah, good point, actually, Andy, from MB there. I knew there was something better than this. Hovhannissian against Vikhurst. Faust seems to have dropped off the card, according to BoxRec, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
Was that initially on that card, like the heavyweight
Yeah,
fight?
it's supposed to be. That's why they must have moved on air, I bet you, then.
No,
to try and save that last spot.
No, what happened with the Donaire card was meant to be...
He was going to be on the Frank Martin card. He was supposed to headline that.
So what happened there?
So they moved him off of that card to take up the place from Victor Faust having to pull out, or Hovenation, whichever one it was.
Marv Nation, yeah.
All right, okay, I'm just trying. So I thought it was the opponent had maybe pulled out and the fight had to get pushed back for some other reason. I can't mind.
No, and I'm not going to hold it against you for not knowing. You're probably at a water park in Germany at the time, so I'm not holding it against you whatsoever, sir.
There you go. You see me? I've got a life outside of this shit. You see?
Yeah, not like us. No. Dumb bastards we are.
Right, before we get on to the main one, then, Joe, anything from the undercard that takes you fancy?
Yeah, I think that Donaire Santiago fight, definitely. I'll put that in the prediction league along with the main event. I like Nonito Donaire, so I'll watch him in any kind of fight. And yeah, this looks like it looks 50-50 with the books. And don't know a huge amount about Santiago, but he seems to be on a pretty good win streak as well. So another great test for a great man.
The test for a great man. Let's get on to the main event then. We've dilly-dallied around for long enough. We've gone through the particular Spence against Crawford. For the chat box, for anybody
got
out
some
there,
Northern Irish bias going on there, Steve. Trying to move fast as you can to keep Rob out of here.
Yeah, no, I wish Rob would appear, but we have the boys here. We've got Joe with us.
Yeah, I'm representing the South.
He was so excited for both of these fights. It's fucking hilarious.
Well, hopefully he'll turn up. Yeah, if you're in the chat, let us know what you think. Same as Inoue Fulton. Let us know your predictions for Spence-Crawford. Give us any analysis you want to. I know I'm in the minority here and I can see a number of different outcomes, to be honest. Maybe not Crawford on points due to the PBC as much, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, let me know how you see it playing out in the chat box there, in the comments below. Let's see who you've got. Or if you want to come on like the boys, like Danny, like Michael, like Ames, like Joe, then the link to StreamYard is floating about. Feel free to jump on. Des, who's been on calls in the past, Nuthouse calls, says 2 brilliant fighters, nothing in them. Bud wins, in my opinion. He's lived better these past 3 years. Good point. Stronger, better activity, and most importantly, no impacting injuries. Bud points, which is an interesting one, Andy. Leads me on to my first point, which I'll bring up to you. What is Spence's physical shape like right now? Is the car accident still a factor? Should we be worried by these persistent eye injuries? Is there a chance Crawford, with all of his power, his strength, his desire, his dog, finally puts a dent in that creaking frame?
I'm not too sure, to be fair, mate. I mean, obviously, you could say maybe Spence has looked really good since he come back from the injury. It was Danny Garcia and the Hughes fight. I mean, at least against Garcia, he looked as good as he's ever been, really, to be fair. So, I think
he had another car accident in the middle.
Yeah, he seems to be in great shape enough in that as well. He's had obviously had the eye operation and that. Don't know if that'll be a factor. My main question going into this fight is as to how both start it. I think we'll get a bit of a chess match for about 2 or 3 rounds, and then I think because the guys are too good, they're too skilled, it's got to break into a fight at some point. I think we're about maybe the middle half of the fight, and down the back half, it's going to have to start kicking off. I think we know how good a finisher Crawford is. It's the other question mark for me is how Spence holding up some of these shots. I mean, look at how Crawford sometimes throws those winging hooks in there. Is Spence holding up to those shots? I mean, remember that punch he took off Hughes? He's stamping all over the ring. He's got the mouthpiece falling out. It does bring question marks at the end of the day. Can he take the shot? As he got a bit of crack in him there? We don't know. I mean, obviously his technical ability kind of covers up any other flaws that he might have at this point. He's gave Floyd Mayweather the business when in sparring at one point. It was so good that even Floyd at the time was saying that Spence was going to be there at the throne.
Give him a black eye, didn't he?
Mayweather, he gave him the really, really hard business. Floyd said he needed it because he was just.
Floyd had been in prison, hadn't he? And he was preparing for the Guerrero fight. This was 2013. Yep. Spence was a 4-0 pro at that point, and he came in and gave Floyd the work that he needed to get himself in shape.
Yep, definitely.
He was almost as old as Floyd was when he sparred him now. Like Errol Spence is no longer a young fighter.
No longer a young fighter, you're right, and obviously he spent that entire career at 147 just before I don't know if anybody remembers, just before the car accident actually. Who was the fight before the car accident? Just
Porter, a month before.
Right. So I think he dumped like some 25, 30 pounds before that fight, and he actually came on Twitter and he said, I got to stop doing this shit. I've got to get my diet in order. And that. He's brought in some conditioner in as well and do his food and that type of thing as a direct result of it. So that might be adding a wee bit of benefit to it as well. But obviously, you'll have the size, I would imagine, on fight night. I don't know how much, obviously, but Crawford with his background with wrestling and that, I think he'll be a menace for Spence on the inside. I don't think the size will be that much of a factor as well. I think if you look at the Porter fights as some sort of kind of like say measuring stick, obviously you can say that Crawford dealt with it far better. The Spence fight as such was kind of like more kind of in battle. The thing with Crawford was he nullified Spence trying to get on the inside. He was happy to hold him, was happy to wrestle him, and he was happy to reset and then get back onto his boxing. The other question as well kind of brings up to me is does Crawford spend the entire fight fighting as a southpaw, or does he start orthodox? Does he go to southpaw? I think he'll probably stick to his southpaw for the best part of the fight. Don't change what works for you, and I think everybody agrees that Crawford's a far better southpaw. Then you got to wonder as well, is Spence preparing for those southpaws and that as well? He's had the proper and the adequate sparring, because I think at this point as well you can say that Spence is without doubt top 5 fighter in the world at this point, pound for pound. So the argument is the winner of this fight becomes pound for pound number 1. Who knows? But what was the question again? I'm kind of like rambling on here.
No, it doesn't matter. Just keep
Spence, your take on the fight. You're right in there.
Spence's deficiencies, really, again, you just wonder. Obviously, he said that I mentioned the injuries and the surgeries. The body doesn't forget about that type of stuff. Is this the moment? Because obviously Crawford is known to be a very good finisher. I forget how many fights he's on a kind of knockout streak at the minute and that, but there's quite a few possible double figures actually at this point. I'm siding with Crawford. I'm going down the stretch, and I think Crawford could do a decision, but I don't know. He's had to take the B side of this, shall we say? He's had to kind of make concessions for the fight. I don't know if he'll get a fair shake on the cards at the end of the day. It is Vegas. Spence has got all the drawing power. He's got all the pay-per-view buys behind him. He is the star, or the attraction, so to speak. So if Crawford's going to do this, he's prone to slow starts. He's got to start quicker, keep on the gas. Can he be having doubts going into that fight actually? Because you remember the Sean Porter situation when he's like mouthing off the corner, thinking the judges had Porter up on the cards, and he's like, really, him up in the card? And they came out and they stopped the fight actually in the next round. Doesn't need any of that shit. Just get in, do the business straight away, get right off on the front foot immediately, because I think if he starts too slow, before he knows where he's 3 or 4 rounds down, then he's having to chase it. And then it just takes Spence to win 3 rounds over the course of the next 6, and he's a winner. So fast start, and I think Crawford could probably do it, but it's got all the hallmarks of a classic. This, I really think it has got a possibility at some point to kick off properly and have good.
They're too proud and stubborn, the two of them, not to.
They've got to be good, and I think both are decent hitters. People are saying that Spence's power is more thudding, it wears you down, whereas Crawford is quite deceptive with his power because of the speed of some of his shots and with angles they can come up with them. They can, they're quite frightening. They're quite powerful in the kind of way he knocks them out as well. I've never seen Spence knock out someone properly clean since Bundu, I don't think. And you know how far back that goes back in his career, just on the offhand.
No, he breaks you down, doesn't he? From angles.
He does. And obviously we did the Brook in that as well, So, but again, they're no peak anymore. Or Spence, I don't think is peak anymore. But we'll soon find out. Again, we don't need the judges. We don't need a shit referee or shit judges. Let the guys bang it out, and I think we'll get it. But I'm going to be flim-flamming on my pick, because I could easily see Spence get the nod here. If he's on his feet and if it's close, he probably gets the nod. But I'm going to side with Crawford on points. Close, but probably controversial as well.
Crawford on points for Andy. Chris Butler says definitely going the distance, I think. MB says Bud all day long. Chris Butler, Crawford split. Yeah, most people are going for Crawford. Crawford late stoppage. if Crawford stops him, it's going to be through a hell of a battle, in my opinion. The amount of people who are saying as if he's going to go through Spence like a knife through butter, I just do not see that at all.
Well,
Spence is
Steve,
a hard bastard, like.
Well, Steve, you do have to consider. I think it's Spence, durable fighter, top level fighter, and when you get into the top levels of boxing, the stoppages, obviously the number of them just falls off a cliff. Skill versus skill gets much more difficult at that point in time. But since picking off his first title against Ricky Burns, only 2 fighters have gone the distance with Terence Crawford. Can you name them?
Jerry John was one of them, or
Nope.
Hank Lundy.
Benavidez, nope. No, he got into the 12th, but he didn't get stopped. Postol.
Yep.
Let me think.
He was fighting to keep his immigration status. So.
Oh, Beltran.
Yeah, that carried him through. That carried him through.
I forgot he even fought him.
All right, so that's something to consider. Okay, that's a very, very big deal. That only 2 guys in his title reign have lasted the distance, and he was even though he was able to ultimately take out Ugas. I think Ugas had some recency bias, Steve. You got to kind of look at that win over Pacquiao where his legs were just dead. Really made Ugas look like a better fighter than he actually was.
Well, Michael Thompson says Crawford is a boxer tricks way too good. Why is he way too good, man? I think that's too much for me, to be honest with you. I don't see much between them.
Name a punch that Terence Crawford hasn't stopped somebody.
But way too good? Like for Spence, effectively, way too good.
Name a punch that Terence Crawford hasn't stopped somebody with. I mean, other than a jab, obviously.
The dodgy gloves.
That was well. Are you going to credit?
Crawford's an amazing fighter.
Are you going to credit the uppercut or the hook for
Crawford's
that? Crawford's
an amazing fighter. I don't debate it. I just don't see that much between the two of them, to be honest with you. Like, I don't see it being a one-sided fight myself. Like others might disagree.
I don't know. What does the other Matt say? The superior Matt think of this fight?
Well, Matt Slippery Butters is on the call here. Go on, then. Jump on in there.
You're right, guys. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, we can hear you all right. Go ahead.
Perfect. I don't think I'm going to add anything more than what's already been said, but I'll give it a go with my usual casual opinions. To be honest, I have to agree with the rest of the lads. I just think I don't think it will be a wide fight either way. I think it will be distance, but I just think Crawford will just have that little bit more to take it, in my opinion. A lot of what swerved that for me is really what is kind of lacking in Spence. I take a lot from the fact that, he hasn't fought since Ugas back in April last year. There's still question marks around the car accident. There's still question marks about, where he's really at, his activity. I think he's taken a lot of time out of the ring, too much time for me. Whereas, Crawford, there might be questions about the sort of people he's fighting, Avanesian, etc. But like at the very least, he's staying active, relatively active at least, and putting on demolition jobs against these guys. And I just think, I just think Crawford has that extra gear that he can go through. The Porter fight was mentioned earlier with Crawford when he was told in his corner, you're down on points. Now, we can argue whether or not he actually was or what the judges' scorecards were at the time. But the point is, he was told that he was down on points. He went out there, got into another gear and finished the job. That is, that is a true great mentality that you can just switch on and just get the job done. And I just think that something similar is going to happen here. Spence is probably going to not necessarily sweep the first half of the fight, but I think he's going to start faster because I don't think Crawford is kind of known for being a bit of a slow starter. I think Errol will probably take some of the earlier rounds, and I just think after a certain point, Crawford will just be told, you're going to have to start throwing, you're going to have to start getting some more activity, and that switch is going to go off in his head, and he's just going to dominate. Like I say, I think this is going to be a distance fight, a very close fight, but one that, is quite close but clear for Crawford. One of those sorts of decisions. And it's just, Oh God, it's going to be a really good fight. This is one of those few times that I'm actually considering buying the pay-per-view. I'm pulling a Matty here, going to buy the pay-per-view potentially. And it's actually good. It's actually good to see this being advertised properly. I was watching the UFC last night. Sorry for mentioning the UFC, by the way. The boxing pod.
We'll bleep that out on the rerun.
Yeah. I was watching it, and in between all the fights on TNT, they were advertising the Spence, pay-per-view. And I was chatting with some of my casual mates about it, and trying to like really sell them on the fact that this is a really good fight. And it's just good to see that this is actually getting some push by TNT, or BT, whatever you want to call them now, and in the name of TNT, I do think this will be quite explosive. So yeah, one to stay up for certain. If not, wake up at whatever time it's going to be, 4 a.m. But yeah, absolutely, it's going to be a fantastic fight, lads.
Matt, you weren't here for the Inoue Fulton fight, so I am keen on your opinion on that, but also the wider picture. I think it was either Matty or Andy mentioned pound for pound earlier. Where does that fit in during the week? Like, is it what have you done for me lately? Is it the winner of which respective fight? Maybe the weight is against Fulton out of the 4 of them. If he were to win, maybe wouldn't go top. But where do you see the pound for pound ending up between the quartet of fighters?
Yeah, it's a good question actually, and I said it earlier in the chat. If Inoue does a job against Fulton, I'll go a step backwards. I actually think that Inoue Fulton is a bit of a sleeper fight, and I actually think it has the potential to be the better fight if Inoue comes out and if he ends up stopping Fulton, then I think that has the potential to be the fight of the week actually, and obviously it's going to be small margins picking out the better fight between, this fantastic quartet, as you're saying. But yeah, I actually do think that it has the potential to be the better fight. Anyway, going back to the question about the pound for pound, if Inoue stops Fulton, then he's number 1 pound for pound for certain. No question. For me at least. If Crawford stops Spence, then he'd probably still be number 2 if Inoue does the same to Fulton. That's my honest opinion. And the reason why I say that is just because of what I mentioned earlier, the fact that Spence has been inactive. There have been these question marks about him in the past. Whereas with Fulton, Inoue's coming up in weight, 122 pounds, cleared out the other weight division. Is coming up against an elite fighter in Fulton, by the way. This isn't some random guy. This is an elite fighter. It's just a shame that it's an elite fighter against, what I think is a pound for pound great, an all-time great of the lower weight divisions in Inoue. So I do think if Inoue puts on a show against Fulton and stops him, he'll be the one at the top of the pound for pound list. So, whereas if Crawford stops Spence, I'd still probably put him at number 2, to be honest.
Yep, fair assessment from Matt Butters there.
Although,
when you go, Matty.
No, never mind.
No, I was just going to mention the you guys fight. I've seen some of the highlights now on YouTube. I was just kind of going through some of the build-up stuff and that as well. Forget that you guys actually even touched this guy up to the body, Spence. So another thing to watch out for as well. Obviously on the inside, if Crawford does manage to get some of those body punches home and that, so just want to keep an eye out for. I just think he looked a bit kind of uncomfortable, and he wouldn't fire back. He would be happy to kind of sit behind the high guard and kind of flinch the body back when the kind of body shots came in. So want to keep an eye out for.
Absolutely. Mark Wharton says, got to go for Crawford. Spencer's had to listen to Joshua speaking nonsense every day in this camp, which is actually a fair assessment, an intangible that we maybe haven't taken into consideration. MB.
Just standing at the fucking side of the ring during sparring. Champ!
Yeah. Errol, I'm heavy.
Throw him like Rocky. You're 10.5 stoned.
I don't know if anybody caught up with the build-up show, episode 2. Actually, Joshua actually makes an appearance in it. And obviously, I think Errol trains in Texas. It must be roasting there because Derek James is actually complaining that it's too hot. He wants to go outside in the shade and train rather than sit in the gym, eh? So I wonder how Joshua was freaking finding the heat earlier, man.
He's going to come in about flipping 11 stone.
Exactly, man. I'm not heavy anymore.
It's like fucking 110 degrees in Texas.
What is the temperature down there, Matty?
It's so he's probably spending time in Dallas at Spence's training camp, and then they probably also are doing some work in Vegas. And both of them have been like between 100 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what the exact Celsius is, like probably somewhere around like 50.
Give me a second here. It's 43 degrees. Holy
Well, there you go.
The heat is on, boys. Anyway, MB says we have seen
Crawford... dry heat too as well, too.
Oh, it would be.
It's a fucking oven down there. It's like being in a fucking oven.
Mm-hmm. We've seen Crawford hurt on more occasions, to be fair. Also, Sean Porter was talking about something on one of the YouTube channels saying that Spence fights hurt quite well. You know, whenever you hurt him, he does seem to get through it quite well. So, I don't know. They've both been hurt in the past to the head and especially to the body in Spence's case, as Andy mentioned. So, you know, it's hard to take until we see them in against each other. Team Spence on points, says Jason Cheel. Chase Athletics says Crawford by KO based on recent mathematics. Spence went the distance with Mikey. Ames, tell me about their respective trainers and where they fit in. Derek James, he's the flavour of the month against Bomac, who's been sampling every flavour of the month by the looks of him. I think the two fighters at this stage is their respective.
That was good.
Just thought of that one. Their respective careers. Trainer input maybe isn't going to change the outcome too much, Ames. I wouldn't have thought with this level of experience on display. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you think?
Yeah, in the case of Crawford, look, Bomac, outside of, from what I remember of the fighters he's worked with outside of Crawford, he hasn't really found that same magic that he has with Crawford. Now, whether that's to say, look, he might just be a fighter who works with one fighter and he's guided Crawford to where he is, and he should get the credit for that regardless. And, you know, if it doesn't work with another fighter, then fair enough. It doesn't work with another fighter. We're talking about a very high IQ level fighter. Not many fighters can replicate it on that level. But like other fighters I used to work with, Amir Khan, look, you got Khan toward, you know, at the end of his career when Khan was like a shell of wherever Khan was. So can he really be judged on those type of fights? But really, he should kind of be judged on his work with Crawford, and he's brought Crawford into a position where, you know, he's up there with and potentially will be up there with the greats when all is said and done. Derek James's career so far as a trainer speaks for itself with the amount of fighters he's worked with and he's currently worked with. Don't really need to go through all of them, but Derek's a lot more accomplished in what he's brought to bring into his fighters, where he's got to them to, and also improving his fighters as well.
We'll see what as well, isn't it?
Yeah. But we'll see what happens with Ryan Garcia. That'll be an interesting one to another string to maybe Derek James's bow. When, you know, of the little clips that we see online, we see Ryan Garcia's finally got his hands up to protect his chin, working with Derek James in the last few weeks that he's been working with. But look, of the two fighters, if you were to ask me who I'd want in my corner, I'd probably want Derek James, just the more accomplished fighter of the two. But it's a difficult one. They're going to earn their stripes, even more so in this fight. One of the most interesting points and factors in the fight is that the minute in between rounds and the advice that they're given, because these two can equally affect the fight from the outside as much as they can from inside too. But yeah, just throwing in my points on the fight, as previously mentioned, I don't really buy into the effects of the car crash stuff. Obviously, I buy into the fact that the car crash definitely happened.
Well, do you think it didn't happen, Ames? This is interesting. Go on.
Conspiracy theory.
Oh, Rob's got to hear this one. He'll love it.
But look, at least, there's no lasting damage that's really been evident. It's not really quantifiable, and it may be even unfair unless some total capitulation happens on Spence's part in the fight against Crawford. But how much of that would you be taking away from what Crawford or whatever Crawford does in the fight on the night? You feel like, or at least I feel like, any lasting damage would have been evident by now. Danny Garcia is an elite level fighter, but he's a world class fighter, world class one for sure, and he might be his one dimensional fighter, but I think he'd find that lasting damage
he'd find
at
out
that level. He would have found that out, as would the UGAS. So it's hard for me to really kind of really kind of buy into this car crash kind of thing. For me, like if anything's kind of changed post car crash, like his form is just that little bit blotchy, just that little bit fluid. It's kind of hard to kind of put into words, but I think maybe I might be making this up. I might remember this wrongly or whatever. My wires might be crossed, but maybe he was saying in the aftermath he couldn't like close his hand properly, or his hand kind of closed a little bit differently. Maybe that's been remedied or whatever. Something in my head kind of
had to get his teeth all kind of re-implanted.
And then Hughes knocked them all out again.
That's right, but yeah,
you guys had him doing a funny dance now, which makes me think that he can, is there a wee bit of fragility there that he didn't have before, because he got thrown into the roof of a sports car at 100 and whatever mile an hour across a freeway.
Which says he can take a shot. He can take a good shot.
Yeah,
he can drive hurt.
Yeah, but the body doesn't forget that abuse. You know what I'm saying, mate? The organs or the bones and.
Which I think is touching on what you were saying there as well. I think he looks
quantify
awkward on the bag. He has a robotic look about him. I think, like maybe he's got like iron rods implanted or something into him now.
But maybe fighters get back injuries and stuff. Maybe it's just old age. How much of that is age? Just as much as it could be part of the car crash. The more pressing issue for me of the two is the retina, knowing the sport, and that's the bigger worry, because eyes injuries and such have happened throughout the sport. That's the factor that I'd be looking at in the fight. And Crawford being an accurate puncher that he is, no doubt they'll be looking to target the eyes of Spence throughout the fight. It's very interesting actually. We put out a poll on Seconds Out, the community tab, and it's nearing 72,000 votes. It's split 50-50. But to add to that, also in my own personal experience, outside of a few in the chat, I haven't spoke to many other people than myself that are actually picking Spence. So yeah, I'm going with Spence in the fight. I love that like the mind games have started and Spence has kind of picked up the dub already. I know it's only like small, but at the top, like these wins, you pick them up throughout the fight week and they're important. Spence has got that already with the hot sauce thing, which is befuddled Crawford as to how he knows he doesn't eat hot sauce. But he won't befuddle Crawford on the night. But what he will do is like crowd Crawford. Crawford for me is in his fighter profile, from what I kind of look at, his main attribute is he's excellent in terms of his control of distance. You fight on his terms. And I think Spence counters that with like educated pressure and activity, which mostly backfoots Crawford, allowing Spence to kind of break him down throughout the fight. A couple of small dents in Crawford's game in his career, Kavalauskas being the one where it was sort of like a knockdown and then a slip. And then Crawford was like, so what if he did knock me down? I got to him, didn't I? But kind of half admitting like it was a knockdown. So Crawford can be got to. And I think he will be got to. A lot will kind of as well depend on who is actually the naturally bigger guy. I remember when Khan fought Crawford, and this was the fight where people were saying like Khan's going to be that bigger guy in the fight. And then when it came to the actual fight night, the size was on Crawford's side completely. Crawford was the bigger of the two, dwarfing Khan. Now, size sure wasn't the only reason as to why, and the deciding reason as to why Crawford beat Khan on that night, but it might be a big reason in this one. And we won't fully know that until like the fight, or at least seeing them on the scales as well, where we can get a scope for it. But for me, I think activity and pressure for me is the key for Spence, and I think that's how he wins the fight, by backfooting Crawford on points, but kind of just crowding him throughout the fight.
Interesting from Ames there. Before we go to Joe Kennedy, the Dr. FMG says Spence to get off the floor to earn a draw, which is certainly one way of looking at it. Spence inside game is arguably the best in the game. Des says, no way. I think he was disagreeing with somebody else, by the way, not necessarily the doctor. No one in the world takes a liberty with Spence. It'll be a hard fight. Yes, but for me, Buddy's fitter, stronger, and just in that better place. Joe, you mentioned something in the private chat there about MB. Good point, saying that Bomac is only one of 3 trainers, just the biggest by far. There's quite a lot of voices in Crawford's corner. Crawford has been shot in the head in the past, as someone reminded me in the chat there.
He's a checkered past, it seems. All right. I think where he's from in Omaha, Nebraska is not the.
You wouldn't mess with him, would you?
Nah, it's rough as a bear's arse around there. And, I said it
before.
You
wouldn't fuck about with his cars anyway. Make sure his cars are in tip-top shape. They want him to visit your garage.
He'd be a great man for a tag team if you're ever in a tough spot with a few boys about to lump the head off you. He'd be the perfect man to kind of come in and help you out. He's just got that natural kind of street fighter thing about him, I think. But I can't wait for the fight. Like I said to you last week, Steve, I can't really believe that it's here as well.
I know.
After all.
Well, it's not here yet, Joe.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I know. I'm touching my head as I speak. Touch wood, like, you know what I mean. But yeah, it's.
Rob's not here either.
Yeah, it's a good. It's. I think Matt Butters made a good point in the chat that we just want to hope that Spence isn't driving to back and forth to the stadium all week. Like he said, hopefully he has his driver sorted. But no, once we get there on Saturday, it's going to be an amazing fight. And I think it's as close to the 50-50 as you can get, really. I'm not going to say forcefully one way or another. I think the longer that Spence can keep it at distance, I think the better for him. I think if they start exchanging, I'm not sure I fully agree with Dr. FMG's analysis on the inside game of Spence. I think it's definitely good, but I think that if they do get into exchanges early, I can see Crawford having the better of it. And I think if I was Spence, I'd be trying to keep it at distance with his jab for as long as possible.
Staying away for as long as possible. The boys are throwing their chat, their viewpoints into the chat. Rob's staying away as long as possible. On a Spence-Crawford weekend, we would have seen him by now, hopefully. Oh, I don't know.
I've just texted him, man. This is outrageous. I cannot believe it, man. One of the guys who cried the most about this fight not happening, and it's almost like less than a week away, and he's not here.
Hold on. Since we got some knowledgeable guys on here, let me go to the potential dark side of the sport here and travel down this journey with me, gentlemen and ladies. My girlfriend listens to the podcast too, actually. So Holly and my girlfriend. So we got 2 female listeners. Good for us. So if you look and they have the rematch clause, regardless who wins, right? Either fighter can enforce that. What is the best way to keep the shine on both of these fighters? A draw. If this fight goes the distance and is close, it behooves the boxing industry to make it a draw. And if it legitimately could be scored a 1, all the better off if it's actually close. But if it's leaning one way or the other, don't be surprised if you get that draw card. And it just seems to be the way it works. And if you look at it, the incentives are all there. I think Bud needs a knockout if he doesn't want to walk out of there with a draw.
Interesting. Do we know who the referee and the judges are by any chance? I was trying to Google it there, but you can never find out. Does anybody know in the chat know? I found out the Inoue Fulton ones, but
a second, I'll have a quick look.
I had a look on BoxRec. It's not listed. I know they do it during the week of the fight, so it probably maybe drop tomorrow. Or anybody in the chat know? Don Trella, Adelaide Berg being thrown in.
I have no idea.
No.
I just put in officials Crawford Spence, and it says Crawford Spence is official.
Yeah, that's what I got too.
Come off it, man.
Isn't that helpful?
I wanted to know because
type in judges. Type in Crawford Spence judges and get more specific.
Well,
with
let's just be fair, or let's just be open here. We didn't want Tony Weeks. That's one thing we didn't want.
No, don't want him.
Kenny Bayless, we don't need him as well.
No.
Terry
Mark
O'Connor.
Nelson can jog on as well.
What about that guy who's the flavour of the month?
Willis. Haven't does all the funny.
Not Willis. There's another fella.
Harvey Dock is pretty good. If they, and they've been struggling
getting.
They've been struggling getting referees that are agreeable recently. So they've been getting some refs from other states. So I don't know. It isn't entirely impossible that you'll see a non-normal judge for a Las Vegas.
Thomas
fight
Taylor was the guy I was thinking of. Matt Butters put it in the chat. Thomas
Taylor's not bad.
Or Michael, the Canadian fellow who done the AJ Ruiz fight. Michael something. For me, where's my head at, man?
Can I just say something by
No.
I just want to say something. I think the referee can't be white, man. It'll probably be a black referee. Got to be.
Think so?
Can't have a white referee fucking this up. Like.
What about a female
Well, they can't
referee?
claim that he's racist. They're both black guys.
Sparkle Lee, man. That's what we need. Well, that fellow who's got like the limp, the impediment.
Kenny win.
Yeah,
Jack
Kenny.
Reese is getting the job, man.
Jack Reese. No, fuck no, don't Jack Reese. Don't, no way.
Absolutely. I tell you what, though, if Kenny Bayless gets the job, though, man, Spence is guaranteed winning it without doubt. Just didn't even bore watched it. Didn't even bore even put money on that fight, man. But Bayless is going to assure
Richard
Spence gets the
Steele.
decision.
Need to get Richard Steele out of retirement or death. Is he alive still? I don't know. Richard Steele, I'm not sure.
Richard
Eddie
Steele.
Cotton. I think he is.
Oh, Richard Steele, aye, that's someone who stopped Mildred Taylor with 4 seconds to go.
That's right, absolutely, yeah. David Palmer, not for ref, but he's thrown in a fiver in the super chats. He says Crawford points or late stoppage. Spence is relentless but robotic. Crawford will figure him out and pick him off towards the end. Well, yeah, that could well happen. That could happen. I think Danny Young's going to do a Nutters call-in on the night of the fight. So during the Liam Davis, Jason Cunningham fight. So if you want to get over to patreon.com/boxing asylum, Matty, well, you don't have to do that, of course, because you can just jump on whenever you please. I think Danny's going to do a call-in, or if not, I might do one. So we can have a look during the fight week and pretend that we've watched the weigh-in and done some deep fight and some deep throat analysis like Linda Lovelace and say, oh, so-and-so looked tense at the press conference, you know, like we're amateur psychologists, Matty.
Why not do live commentary for Cunningham against Davis?
Oh, well, we could do that. We'll all be at different times and different zones.
Yeah, that always works out well. I appreciated you spoiling that one fight for me. I'm trying to remember what one it was. I'm like, God fucking damn it. I didn't know he was going down.
Oh, dear. Right, okay, yeah, Danny's going to do that, and if not, I'll do it. So let's go around the panel who's on at the moment, and then we'll make our final picks, final predictions. Until Saturday evening, things might have changed. And then we might make another pick once we've seen the weigh in, the press conferences, see who's looking tight at the weight, etc. First one to you, Andy. Final summation as of now. Obviously, feel free to jump on a Saturday night if you wish, if you have any different thoughts and feelings. But as of now, Sunday evening, 10 o'clock, who are you going for and by what method of victory?
Spence.
What?
Sorry, Crawford. Sorry, Crawford. I was just reading something there. Just reading about the referee. Still trying to find out who the referee is, mate. Crawford decision. I agree with the part of the last take that was just read out there, and that I could see Crawford picking it up down the stretch. But I think both guys, as you say, Steve, pride, ego, I think they're too good still at this point not to have a bit of a humdinger here down the stretch. We want to see some action as well. Skills pay the bills, we all know it, but I think at some point we need something here to kind of say this guy was the better man on the night. And I think that'll be Crawford. I think if it comes right down to it, the guts it, I think Crawford will be the stronger man of the two in the end.
Points or stoppage?
Points, Crawford.
Of course, Matty, as you make your pick as well, I've sort of poo-pooed the stoppage a little bit. Don't see anybody getting stopped. I don't. But, of course, they're both very prideful men, both very stubborn. They're going to go at it. They've got the dog. They're going to go into the trenches, which, of course, could leave someone to overstep in their boundaries, overstepping the mark, and indeed getting knocked out early.
That could happen. That uppercut is there for Spence. I don't discount that as a possibility. Just to make a little run here, just some things from the betting markets I think are interesting.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
DraftKings.
Yes, of course.
So Terrence Crawford right now, and I'm sorry, I don't know all of. I don't want to do fractions in my head and do conversions right now, so bear with me with the American lingo. Terrence Crawford is a minus 155 favorite right now, meaning you'd have to bet 155 to win 100. Spence paying plus 120, have to bet 100 to win 120. It's they're agreeing with you, and its odds are it's probably going the distance. It's just a little bit less than 1 to 2 if you're looking for the fight to go the distance. But all of that said, you get down into the odds. As far as the most likely method of victory here is Crawford plus 175 for decision. Spence plus 210. So seeing both of those likely. But when you get into the stoppage, Steve, that's where there's obviously a noticeable difference. Crawford paying just a little bit less than 3-1 to win by stoppage, with Spence paying about would that be 11-2 to get the stoppage. So there's a big difference there. So they're saying if someone's getting a stoppage, it's probably going to be Crawford. And then when you get into them looking at the rounds, Crawford to win in round 7 through 12 is 9-2. And the best looking 6 rounds you're getting on Spence, you're getting good odds on it, is what would that be? That'd be 19-2. to win in the back half of the fight. Not good odds on either of them to win in the front half of the fight.
The draw over here, just checked here in Willie Hills, the draw over here is 14-1.
Yep, same thing, which is a little bit close on the men's side of things compared to usually. Most of the time you see it a little bit wider than that. So Crawford is definitely the favorite. Very close to whether he could win on decision or knockout, though, comparatively when you look at it comparatively. So I got to say I'm leaning Bud by stoppage, but I've been a Bud fan for a long time. But when you're looking at a streak, it's pretty incredible. Recency bias, not really there because he's just been storming through everybody. First man to stop many of the opponents on his ledger. The first man to stop Sean Porter. You saw Errol Spence was able to put him down, not able to finish the job, not even close. That fight actually going to a split decision. Some people might look at that a little bit weird. I don't think that Porter did enough, obviously. But nonetheless, somebody there did. This is definitely a more diminished version of Errol Spence in comparison to what you'd be looking at with Crawford, who at 35 years old is definitely not at his best. But having seen him live and seen him on in just through his career and watched intently, Crawford is not that far off the best that he's ever been. He does know how to keep that jab active if need be. I do worry about the uppercut because Kavalauskas did catch him with a good one. But the feeling on here is if it goes to the cards, it could very well be the draw. But I think that Crawford, he's not one to play the role of company man, and he's going to be there to try to get the knockout late.
And is that what you're going for then, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Are you going to put money down on it? You have a little cheeky parlay?
I have one going from a while ago, so we'll see how that goes. I need Fulton and Crawford to win.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Right, Ames, I think you're the only person who's sort of siding with me. Thank you very much for that. I don't feel too out of place here on the panel then. Final prediction, please.
Yeah, I'd have no clue what Matty just said in that 5 minutes. All that betting jargon goes straight all over my head. But speaking of jargon, I thought I'd just quickly search up all the boxing cliches heading into this fight. And this is a modern day Hagler Hearn, so don't blink because either fighter can end the fight. It's a must win, fight of the year written all over it.
Well, Eddie being at his best, I take it.
They're daring to be great between the two of them. That's all I've got. So yeah,
is IFL the one pushing those quotes, mate?
No, I literally just threw it out on Google just to see what everyone was saying. But yeah, no, it's Spence for me to win the fight. I think in how it plays out first few rounds, I think Crawford's natural caginess will be his detriment, with Spence kind of being the one to really push the fight, and he kind of with his activity kind of racks up the points. Then Crawford kind of gets into a bit more of a gear through the mid rounds. He might hurt Spence throughout the fight, but I just think Spence dogs this out and doesn't dog walk Crawford in any sort of way. But I think with activity, he wins this fight on a split. I think it's a split decision win for Crawford, but I think for Spence. Sorry, but I think he gets the nod.
The nod for Spence for Ames there. MB joking, saying these two really don't like each other. Obviously, that's what the beef would say on the YouTube, but I completely disagree, Joe. As you make your summation, I think these two actually do like each other and they seem to get on well. It's a bit of forced beef.
Yeah, there's definitely respect between the two of them, and the hot sauce thing was definitely a pretty funny moment. It was good to see Crawford getting in Derek James's face as well from the get-go. I think there's definitely respect between the two camps, and I think I think it'll be cagey enough early on, like Andy mentioned. I think a couple of people have said that Crawford will probably start slow, and if he does do that, I think that would definitely be to his detriment, because Spence with the jab and the fundamentals could just rack up the points early. And I think that if Crawford has to start jumping in and reaching in, that he'll get picked off by Spence as well. I think that he'll need to keep it competitive throughout and then hope to get him down the stretch. But I think Maddie could be on the money with a draw. I think I'm going to stick my neck out and put it on the draw as well.
Oh, he's going for the draw. For a few quid, just to kind of parlay or whatever they say, Joe, or are you actually thinking it might genuinely be a draw?
I think it might genuinely be a draw. I think it's close to 50-50 as you can get. two excellent fighters. I think people have been overlooking Spence. I think going into it, there's a lot more talk about, like you said, Crawford running through him like a bad dose. I just don't see that happening. And I think that, I think it's going to be razor close either way. And Crawford probably needs to win convincingly to win it on points as well against the A side. So, I think a draw is definitely within the realms. I'll probably put a cheeky couple of quid on a parlay with that. Yeah.
Lovely stuff. And finally, our guest Matt Butters of the Boxing Nutters Prediction League. What are you going for, sir?
Yeah, I've been listening to everyone, and you still have to go with Crawford by decision. I think same thoughts as before. I think he's just got another gear to go through, and I think he'll show that on the night. And just going quickly back to Matty's point about this might be a draw in order to get the next fight. I think even if this is a split decision victory for Crawford, say, or even for Spence, this is going to go straight to a second fight. If that's also a split decision, I think we could have a trilogy on our hands here. And if all three turn out to be fantastic fights, this could be the trilogy of our generation, lads. So I'm looking forward to that.
The rate these lot fight, though, did you say our generation? I think it's going to probably spill into the next generation as well.
We'd probably all be in old people's homes by then, Steve. Yeah.
Be on a Misfits card in 15 years.
I don't know about you, Matt, but I definitely will be. Lovely stuff. Yes, thank you very much to the boys for joining us. Feel free to stick around for Value of the Week, Joe, Matt, Ames, whoever else doesn't usually come on if you want. I'm going to make my prediction then just to close things out. As you'll probably know, I know I'm in the minority here, quite literally. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 2. I'm going for Spence on points or late stoppage. I think the fight's going to be immensely competitive. I rate both fighters very highly, but I just think Spence's jab, closure, distance, and his body attack's going to be the difference. And I think he'll be able to wear Crawford down and maybe even stop him, actually. I think he's a big 147-pounder. I think he's going to provide a reality check to the guys Crawford's fought before. And I'll go more specific then so you can all rid me and take the piss next week. I'm going to go for Spence, 10th round stoppage. That's my prediction.
Woo!
Your hatred for Terence Crawford runs deep.
Not at all.
Yeah. You're very transparent.
I'm a faceless troll. Rob, I don't know. Rob can text. He can voice message him his prediction in or something.
God, we always joked about Gabe being dead. Hopefully Rob's fine.
I was just about to say that. Boy, would we feel embarrassed. I'd be raping off Kelly. Oh dear. Right. Yes. So if you want to have your say, the lines are closed now, so don't try and join the call if you're not already on. But if you do want to have your say, we will be doing a Nutters call in on the Saturday evening, which we'll put up straight after. So you can have a listen really late on Saturday evening on the SoundCloud or YouTube or whatever it goes on, or Sunday morning after the event. The boys will be jumping on with either me or Danny Young. And you can jump on too if you go over to patreon.com/Boxing Asylum. £1 will do it for you. Okay, then let's move on to the Belly of the Week. Unless there's any other pressing matters that I'm forgetting, Matty, anything there out there? Any fights next week? Any talking points you want to raise?
No, I think there's a Pro Box card on Wednesday, so you guys will be able to check that out on their free platform on YouTube on Thursday morning when you guys get up. So I don't know who's fighting on it, but I believe it is happening.
There you are, Pro Box card. We don't know who's on it, but it's going to be fun all the same. Go
Matty
ahead, Ames.
gets commission off of these Pro Box cards, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's how he funds the pay-per-views. They give him a cheeky little $50 so he can buy the pay-per-views over his side.
I think he's the only person getting paid from Pro Box, to be honest with you, Ames. I'm not throwing out any aspersions here.
It's $2 a month is all I pay for their fights. I feel like it's exceptional value. $1 a card.
And if you throw a reference to them, they'll give you the $2 for free, right?
Not yet, but that's a great idea.
If you sign up for Matty's recommendations
Matty's
on a Sunday
affiliate
evening,
link.
he gets an affiliate link. Yeah,
That's what I need.
An affiliate link there. Right, let's go on to Belly of the Week for episode 532. Steve's here, that's me. Andy's here, Matty's here. 2 Mattys, in fact. Matty squared. You've got Matt Butters on as well. At the moment, Joe Kennedy and Ames is with us too. No sign of rapping Rob Kelly yet, unfortunately. Maybe he is off looking for UFOs or walking his dog, or perhaps he could be down at Nathan Cleverley's church down in Wales. They're having fun anyway over the weekend. Get yourself down there. as the man himself told us just gone.
Hey guys, so it's Kasia and Nathan here. We are in Victory Church today when everything good is happening. We have the sacred, sexuality conference. We're talking about the most important topic, which is sex. We're talking about our kids in school, about the education, about the gender and the sex. We're talking about the truth, isn't it? It's been really good. We have deliverance. You want to say anything, babe? Invite people.
Very good course. Sacred Sexuality Conference. Very good. Just lining everything up with the Bible, you know. What the Bible says about sexuality.
Sex and marriage, without the marriage.
And defining it in a biblical way. It's very good, very interesting. Holy.
Come here, guys, every day for next 3 days, till Saturday, next 2 days. 10 o'clock in the morning, there is breaks, it's going through all day, and then the last...
Look at the size of him. Look at that face. It's like a ball.
Dirty look in his face as well, isn't it? Like a guilty look in his face, I should say.
Oh, you've got plenty to feel guilty about, old Clev there. Must have taken too many shots.
How can the Polish accent and the Welsh accent the same? Sexuality is the same.
Get down to the church. Declan Graffin, shout out to him. He's throwing in 20 quid. He said Bud's going to smoke him. Well, there you are. Declan, going for it. 19.99. He's thrown in the super chat. He's welcome to his opinion. Thank you
Put the
very much.
pay-per-view cost in there, Steve. He is very committed.
Yeah, absolutely, he is. Team stream for Declan, allegedly. Not saying anything.
If it's pay per session, Matty's definitely going.
Interestingly enough, I will be in the fight in the free suite of Mr. Donald Trellis. So,
are you going to the actual fight itself, Matty?
I might pick up a ticket. We'll see what's available.
Do you see Donnie at that wedding today with that suit that he's got on?
If he goes out like that, I don't care if he's saying he'd pay for my meals. I'm not
telling
going
you
with
right
him.
now, he got dressed when he was during tripping on LSD. He had to be, man. Nobody gets dressed like that. And by the way, his wife needs to have a word with him, by the way. That's not acceptable to go walk out the house. Just like this man here. Look at what he's wearing. Floyd.
Yeah, I just think if Donnie's dressed like that, me and him are dining out together, people are going to get the wrong ideas. So I'm not going to participate in such shenanigans.
Fucking, he's dressed like Crocodile Tubbs at the same time.
There he is. Crawford Spence for the last 2 hours and he just appeared.
Sorry. It's just one of them. I just couldn't get on time. And it was fucking just one of them ones. Sorry about that. But anyway, I'm here now.
He's here now. Just in time for...
Nominations. Anyone any nominations, lads? Nothing for me this week. All right, good luck. See you next week.
Maybe Steve will let you bookend the show this week with your predictions, but after we get out of the Bellews, I think that might be fair.
Oh, I certainly will. Don't worry. But what about there's Floyd, Andy getting dressed in a power cut, as you would say?
I know, mate. That's like, what is that? Yves Saint Laurent. So it's probably like 10 grand that suit to him. I still can't buy you taste. Look at the state of that. It's just like he stood in front of a paint or someone just threw paint at him or something.
Looks like a 1980s art kid exploded on him.
And what's with the stance he's got, man? Somebody needs to have a word with that. Unacceptable.
Unacceptable from Floyd. Who's going to tell him? Clearly nobody was hanging around with him anyway. Teofimo Lopez. Oh, here we go. Hatham's going to be kicking off again, Matty. My father makes my career harder than needed when he speaks about things without my knowledge. Do I get upset? Absolutely. However, he's the only one that ever believed in me in this cruel world. I support him for it, but not when it comes to business in boxing.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair idea. I think his dad has made some mistakes in his career, but who I'd really be interested to hear his take on this father-related issue would be our good friend Haddam. So, Haddam, what do you feel about this father and son relationship in boxing? Please tell us everything that you think about this. Again, Haddam, there's father-son related boxing information here, and I'd like to get your take.
We need to do a special on that sometime, I feel, Matty.
Absolutely. And we get people on different sides of it, and it'll be a great time. Like an episode of Dr. Phil. That's so nice that you took
I feel bad for doing this. I really ummed and ahed.
Look at that tie, man. What's he been doing?
That's so nice that you took that people that were with him out of that.
I had to. I was going to
too.
scribble their face out and all. I thought, no, I'm not going to put it on. I thought, no, I have to. Sorry, Donny.
The trousers needed iron as well, man. Jesus.
It looks like he's going to Easter service.
Mr. Tumble, somebody said he looks like.
He looks like he's waiting for makeup and a hat, but he's going to be playing an old black woman in a movie.
Oh, shout out to Donny. He's loving life. Could be worse. Could be Bomac.
That man, the guy folded his arms. He's that big.
Now, I was just thinking of this. Have you ever considered that somebody like Bomac might get to that size because women repeatedly kicked him in the dick, and he thought to himself, "Man, if I just couldn't wear a cup every day, life wouldn't be so hard." And he was like, "Hey, I can grow my own cup."
Get that picture of Donny back up again, Steve.
Has he worked on that joke, like, or is that just fucking off the cuff? It's shameful anyway. Either way. Fuck's sake.
What do you think, Ames?
He's like the US equivalent of Mr. Bean in what I imagine to be Mr. Blobby's clothing.
He's like
Brutamente.
He's gone from Miami Vice versus the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Oh, see that tie by him? That tie looks like a heat map on a football pitch. Actually, you think about it.
He looks like he's wearing clothes given to him from a church, and he's living in a halfway house right now and headed to his first job interview after years in the can.
It looks like he could use the can actually as well. Right?
He looks like he could. Looks like he could tell you how to get to Sesame Street, doesn't he?
He looks like an 80s SPL manager.
Donny or David Price?
David Price suits on us.
Is that two suits and he just couldn't find the fucking? Is it two suits and he just like could only find the bottoms of one suit, or what the fuck was going on there? Like, I don't know. He doesn't give a fuck anyway, Donny, by the looks of it. So good on him. Good man, Donny.
What was he wearing on his feet? Just out of curiosity, wasn't he wearing like suede shoes or something?
We
like
didn't
that?
get down that far, Andy. It was cut off, unfortunately.
Good.
He's got clown shoes on.
No, he's probably got Jesus sandals or something like that. You know?
He's loving life. He's loving life. Could be worse. Could be Bomac or Ryan Deal's interpretation of The Biggest Loser with Dan and old John Fisher. There.
See that polo shirt about John Mayer's, man. It's like he must have like 20,000 of those, man. He's never got it off if he hasn't. Honestly, it's got more food on the menu as well.
I'd like to see somebody else put on his shirt that he's already worn and see what the wear pattern is.
Oh, man, you kidding me, man? The smell of that.
I didn't even think about that.
It'll cling to you like a clegg or something like that. You know, it'll just be literally taking it off, man. You need to peel it off yourself and that. You know.
The wind would catch hold of it and you'd be off in the air.
Why do I
Like a
smell like
fucking
lunch
parachute.
in Beijing?
Dogs will end up looking you now walking in the street.
Fucking cricket.
I'm winning this week, Rob. You can't play your game in week, motherfucker.
I tell you who else is winning. Eddie, don't call it a midlife crisis.
I've been here for years.
He loves men's health, doesn't he, Eddie?
They don't get photographed in the same bedroom as you know who.
Apparently so.
Sat me his hat on because he couldn't get his plugs fixed.
He's had a bad week. Someone accused him of not paying him, which, to be fair,
It's a bad time for that tagline for him, in fairness, isn't it? With everything that's been fucking thrown around. Don't call it a midlife crisis. It's true love is the next sentence.
I've been here for years.
I just fucking said that 2 seconds ago, asshole.
Oh, sorry. I went to go get a drink. I didn't expect your brilliance in fucking 15 seconds.
Listen.
I missed it.
If I had €1 for every time that someone said that to me.
Well, Damo reckons that Eddie could soon be hitting Skid Row. What
the fuck is he chugging there? I mean, it's
Bottle
like
of wine.
Photoshop, but yeah,
So
is that like super cheap wine? I can't tell from the angle. You know?
Some Blossom Hill, so you're talking about
Blossom Hill.
it's about £5 a bottle.
Oh, well, fucking A, that's good cheap
You
wine.
could buy it with a Johnny 79p. Yeah, coming in there now. Shout out to Johnny.
Can you buy an actual Johnny for 79p anymore, Steve?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not in that market anymore.
I know. Well, yeah. Someone on the is anybody in the call here currently wearing
the hydraulics
condoms?
removed?
Condoms, what is this? The 80s? Just fucking relax with you. Just fucking roll the dice like everyone else. It's like COVID now. Nobody gets that.
Oh dear. The quote was kicking off, Matty, about Clarissa Shields has spoken out after influencer boxer Daniela Helmsley exposed herself following a win on the Kingpin card in Dublin on Saturday night. She says, wow, this is a step backwards for women's boxing. Stop this shit.
Get them out for the lads.
If she had a hair.
Preach, sister.
I shout out to the quotes. Audley Harrison, I went to the gym today and after my weight session, I shadow boxed and completed some visualization of different opponents. For the top four, Usyk, Fury, Wilder and AJ. Usyk was the easiest to figure out. Very similar to when I boxed Lesin. Strange phenomenon.
I bet he never even threw a punch to you in any of that session.
How's he figuring out his fight with Wilder? Did he not already fight Wilder? Get absolutely evaporated.
He got iced in about 90 seconds or something like that, you know?
Oh dear. Oh,
I've often done that myself, pit myself against the greats, you know what I mean, in my house, in the sitting room when I'm on my own. J-Lo is the easiest to work out. The rest of them more tricky.
Oh dear. There's Ozzy jumping on the call. Good evening, Oliver. How are you?
Pissed for Lisbon.
Ozzy, with the fucking on a stag night, he's on the call. This is new grounds. We're breaking
Ozzy
here.
in Portugal, he signed on twice. So good, he signed on twice.
We need pictures, Ozzy. We need pictures. We need live reporting.
I'm currently stuck between two timelines, and one of me is in Portugal.
Need that debauchery, man. That could be pay-per-view gold.
Oh well. I was going to ask him his opinion on this. Steve Spevak, with a potential fight on the horizon with Josh Kelly versus Tim Zhu. Who would win?
Is that for real?
Tim Zhu. Yeah.
Everybody that hates Josh Kelly.
Well, that's true, but
yeah, I think that one's only going one way. To be honest, we'll move on. Isak Lowe looks a bit like Maxi Hughes, doesn't he? Focus.
Only going one way, Stephen. And
yes.
Josh Kelly's not fucking winning, mate.
All right, okay.
Sorry, mate. I've been absent for a few weeks. I've been very busy. I'm currently in Lisbon on a stag do for one of my good friends from cricket. But I've pulled away on a very busy strip. But few of very questionable characters. But I thought I'd jump on for A, Maxi Hughes was absolutely robbed in a disgraceful decision. And B, it's a boxing asylum and it's another country to tick off.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well done.
How many pints you deep, mate?
Far too fucking many, mate. I've done about 12 beers and I'm now on fucking rum and cokes.
Oh, it's downhill for there now, mate.
You're going to feel great in the morning, Oz.
That sugar crash is going to be amazing.
It's already downhill. And when I saw Donald he uploaded a picture to Facebook before in salmon chinos and a yellow blazer. I commented on it and praised it. I knew it was only one way downhill.
You going for Chinese, Ozzy?
Well, there's only one way to do that, and that's Big John style. So why not, basically?
Hey, you're in Portugal. Catch your own prawns.
Pork balls, chicken chow mein, pork chow mein, and everything else. Big John style.
Brilliant. Give us a quick prediction before you disappear, Ozzy. Spence-Crawford.
I've said it once, and I'll say it again. It's always about Terence Crawford. He's the better boxer. He's the better fighter. And I said it from the off that if they're going to box, it's all about Terence Crawford. He's the main man. He's the best in the division. Terence Crawford wanted this fight. Terence Crawford never backed away. Everybody can criticise him. Everybody wants to criticise his record. People do not want to box Terence Crawford. This is his big breakout fight. This is the one that he wins. And I think he schools Errol Spence. And I think he wins it by 5 or 6 rounds clearly.
Okie doke. And what about Inoue Fulton?
Tough one. This is the closest fight of the week. I have gone with Inoue anyway on decision. I'm purely going on the fact where it is. I think Stephen Fulton is very live in this fight. I think it's going to be very close. I'm talking 2 or 3 rounds in this at most. Value-wise, I definitely want to back Fulton, you're talking 2-3 to 1 with the bookies over here, which is a disgraceful price in terms of they're just completely writing him off. But realistically, after seeing the Maxi Hughes decision as well, from where he was 3 to 1 or just under, and we had money on him, and it was completely robbed. Do you see Stephen Fulton getting a decision over there? Absolutely no chance. So I don't think Inoue stops him. I think the going up in the weight probably. I'm not saying it takes it out of him, but I don't think he stops Fulton. But I think it's a great fight, and I think I'm going Inoue 115, 113.
Loving it, Ozzy. Anything else you want to throw in there before we let you go back onto your Portuguese bosh up?
A quick apology, actually, for not being there. I've had a load on with cricket and other stuff. I was on Sky yesterday, actually. You know, like, I'm not big in the old, but like Big John Fisher. But yeah, I was on Sky Sports. But yeah, talking about the local cricket scene. But I'll be back on next week, talking about all things boxing. I have definitely missed it. But yeah, also that it's a shame. I want to talk about Maxi Hughes more than anything. That this is a guy that, again, what am I big on? Records are for DJs. This is a guy that has made, he's had upsets, he's lost, and he's built his way back up. And last night was his big breakout fight, and it's an absolute disgrace the way he did not get that result. He was a clear winner, and I hope that IBF, which was the final eliminator, and the IBO do the right thing and overturn that decision. This was not a difficult fight to score at all. I'm amazed at the judge that called it 117, 111. It's not right. I just don't understand. And we've said it before and we'll say it again. These guys should be made to explain how they saw that fight at 117, 111. Yes, there was a few scrappy rounds, but there was nothing that had it 117, 111 to George Kambosos. Maxi Hughes, he will definitely come again. I think they'll have a rematch without a doubt. I think George Kambosos is done at this apparent top level, which he was potentially never there at. Maxi Hughes will beat him in the rematch. And it's all about Maxi Hughes going forward, who deserves, in my opinion, to be challenging for a world title next. Yes, he's not a world champion at an IBO level, but I'll tell you what, he's done it the hard way. He's boxed everybody in the away corner, and last night he was robbed. You can only feel for him because he was a worthy winner. And it takes a lot to unite boxing Twitter, and when everybody's coming together to say Maxi Hughes has won, you know it's the right decision.
Ozzy, just finally before we let you go,
Did you take Hughes in the prediction league, Oz?
I fucking did as well, which is the worst thing, because I had Hughes on decision. So I was watching it. I was in the airport at 4:30. We were due to board at 5 o'clock, and I was watching it coming through. And then I saw the decision come through later on, and I was absolutely devastated. I had 30 quid on bloody Maxi Hughes in the prediction league, in terms of betting wise. I had him in the prediction league, and I thought, I can't not win. And then the fucking judges rob him. But like I said, I tell you what, anybody who backed Maxi Hughes absolutely won, and it's the judges who robbed him.
Been there.
Brilliant stuff. Ozzy, nice one for coming on. We'll maybe catch you next week, hopefully.
Yeah, enjoy, absolutely, mate. Like I say, I apologise for not being on recently. It's all about the cricket in the summer. But I just want to say, I am topping the prediction league. I don't know how at the moment, but yes, I got the new prediction league through, and I was bizarrely top. So follow my tips.
Follow his tips, indeed. Absolutely.
You are going to need Inoue to win if you want to stay up there,
or you be off your tips.
Well, I'm hoping, to be honest, that we see a correct decision from where Maxi Hughes is awarded the win, because everybody agrees with it, apart from the Cambosos winners, who then need to look at it and just go, he clearly didn't win that fight. Do the right thing, is what I say. When in boxing, it never happens.
Well said, Oz. We'll catch you again next week. Enjoy Portugal, okay, dude?
Cheers, fellas. Good man. All the best.
Bye, Oz. God bless. Ozzy Smith there, everybody. That was entertaining, wasn't it? Enjoying himself out there. Slurring through the traditional route. Said he was on fire the other day. Join the queue, I say. Let's move on swiftly. There's Isaac Lowe. Focus and ready to go again after 7 moths were back to work. What he's throwing out there, old Isaac, but he seems to be enjoying himself. nonetheless. Here's one for you, Andy. Josh Taylor talking about begging for fights. In case you forgot, Simple Jack, it was COVID restricted. Apparently, it was the fight between him and Ramirez was COVID restricted. That's why it didn't get picked up on TV.
Yeah. What was it? I was picked up on Fight TV, wasn't it?
Oh, was it Fight TV? I did.
Fight TV was on.
Oh well. Manny Pacquiao will take on Muay Thai legend Buakor in January of next year. The fight will be contested over 6 rounds with a 2-minute break in between each round with a weight limit of 155 pounds. And there's a belt on the line, the Legends belt, WBC Legends belt here. There you go.
Oh, they allowing shin kicks?
The absolute bastards.
Oh, there's one for Aussie I should have dragged up, shouldn't I? Boschenheimer. With Big John himself. Forgot I even had that one, didn't me?
Boschenheimer.
Jesus.
How to eat a Chinese.
Few atomic bombs after the fucking Chinese.
Oh man, I'm surprised the sewage systems aren't fucking clogged and emanating of absolute fucking depths of hell with the amount of shit he must put in through the tubes.
Oh, he's living life. Keyshawn, shout out for him and the little experiment with the ring walk. They're trying to mic him up. Oh, they did the best they could. Matt Butters on the call, no less. Bellew of the week for world-renowned referee Steve Gray. Please explain this one, Mr. Butters. What's this all about?
I don't know if you all heard it last night on Friday night when they're on the Channel 5 card, but before the main event with Lee McGregor, the announcer, who took about 5 minutes to actually get through all the bloody speeches, spent about 30 seconds on Steve Gray, this world-renowned referee, known all over the world. I'm sure if you asked a guy on the street who he was, he wouldn't have a fucking clue. So yeah, very interesting. And also, I on the point as well, I did also love Steve speaking to Robles and with his best Spanish possible. He sounded like a laddie not on holiday asking for a beer. So belly of the week for that as well.
Uno más cerveza, por favor.
They are. Bit of Spanish for Mati Di Gialinardo. Impressive.
Imperfect tourist.
Yeah.
Brutalmente.
Brutalmente, El Gringo. Talking of Brutalmente, I think it was Damo was responsible for this one. I can't remember the context, but I thought
there's again.
They're a bad bunch, aren't they, man? I don't think that one was Ryan Deal. Oh dear. Danny Young and Liam Wynn and a few others threw this in. Just leave him alone to comment at the golf. If you haven't knocked a few holes in there, Matty, you can't have an opinion. It's the bomber, lesser spotted, dragged down for an opinion at the golf.
Yep, just leave him alone. He's just trying to enjoy another Open Championship where an American comes onto your shores and kicks your ass, and you ruin that for him. I hope you're happy.
Yeah, shameful. Bellew.
Mate.
Also, shout out to Willie Harvey, old lump, 296 pounds.
What's it, Rocky Lockridge, man? There, he was on the streets.
He did his best. He got stopped in the end. And the final one I have is from Cali Sauerland. He's come up with some interesting new ideas, some innovative ideas for boxing in the future. Maybe Ames will be a fan of this one.
But I do think there's a lot of formats that you're going to see from this in traditional boxing.
In what way?
I think tag team.
They are Ames tag team boxing.
I knew I'd get dragged into this somehow.
You'll put any old shit on life. It makes
not
money.
For me. Not for me, no.
I saw that full interview, and I talk about interventions all the time for John Fisher, but I want to get hold of this fella seriously. What is he coming out with? He thought that he'd like to see the tag team boxing come over 4 to 6 rounds. He spent that video interview was about 6 minutes long, and 4 minutes and 30 seconds he was licking his teeth. Now I don't know what that suggests. I'm kind of naive in those circles, but it doesn't look good, bruv. It's not looking good, bruv.
No,
boys know. You know, if a guy is generally smiling that much, he's licking his teeth that much in such a short time, and he's
I'm telling you right
He's
now,
contemplating the future of tag team professional boxing. There's some fucking that's a 6 a.m. conversation if I ever fucking heard it. You know what I mean? So I think there's fucking time for intervention there. Like,
he certainly keeps that the Nashers clean, unlike Shane McGowan anyway. So
sick.
Oh, serious it to Shane. Right, that's all the ones that I've had sent. Well, I got sent in loads this week. I had to cut them
You
down.
scumbag, you maggot, you cheap lousy, sell anything, fucking fuck. Any old fight to the public, for fuck's sake.
Oh, class. Andy, any from you, please, this week?
Yeah, did anybody catch Tim Bradley trolling Kriegel on the ESPN?
Ah, yes.
Oh my god, Kriegel was raging, man. It was like zero chill, wee bit sensitive, man. He was getting all angry with himself. Just couldn't handle the banter. I don't think could Mr. Kriegel. So it might even do as a wee monologue over it and that as well. So
Doesn't do so many monologues these days, I don't think. Does it seem to cut him down?
Oh, he's a sanctimonious prick, man. Anyways, we don't need you listening to that pish anymore. Inoue saying just don't suck it up, just fight. Calling out Fulton. Oscar, did anybody catch Oscar coming out? He's got a documentary coming out. This is gonna be must watch TV
on HBO
tomorrow night.
Monday, yeah.
Oh, is it Monday?
For me at least, I think.
Oh, I'll get it on the download on Tuesday.
Oh, I'll get that too, yeah.
Yep, so that'll be ideal. But he's saying here, says De La Hoya admits to paying forensic to claim cross-dressing photos were fake, recounts paying off Russian mob. So yeah, if that's even half a detail of what we're going to be getting on this fucking show, it's going to be interesting, like, because there's tons of shit we could be discussing about Oscar in that regard. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we get there. Michael Montero, apparently that did anybody see that picture I posted up? His fight that he's got planned next week, I think it is. It's cancelled.
Oh.
$900 for a VIP.
Espinosa was kicking off, wasn't he? Off the back of your tweet.
Stephen Espinosa's messaging my tweet, man. He's fucking fuming. I'm like, dude, it's posting the picture, are you? Eddie and Sky using the same hotel room. Eddie wearing a hat indoors to cover the fact up that he's gone bald. Didn't have time to do his hair, so quick to cover it up there. Eddie. Just on Eddie actually as well, is I see Matchroom's dropping a 200-page magazine next week, I believe it is. So that's
dossier.
A dossier. If it was 270 pages, you could have called it a fucking dossier. Yeah. So there's something pages shy about. So maybe they've dropped the low some evidence there. So maybe they're only issuing 200 pages coming out shortly. Yes, that's a magazine they're bringing out, Matty. Also, Boxing Social sent out this fucking tweet. Conor Ben punching the heavy bag under the tagline, relentless work ethic, unmatched. It's like literally a 10-second clip of fucking Conor Ben hitting the fucking heavy bag for like 10 of those seconds. Unrivaled fucking work. Jesus Christ. And Stanionis just basically digging the knife into Golden Boy, saying he was mistreated, telling fighters not to sign for him and not to do business with Golden Boy ever again.
Yeah, they wouldn't even pay for his ticket back to Latvia. And then he said, okay, pay for me back to wherever, Los Angeles or whatever. And they said, no, it's not in the budget.
Fuck it. So
they had to have lost their ass on that show, though.
I know, but he was the victim, Stanionis. Like, my God.
Oh, I feel bad. Yeah, that's terrible. But fuck, they had to lose so much money that event. Good God.
So that's it, mate.
Super job. Thank you very much, Andy. Any from you, Matty?
Yeah, my God. You got to give it to Judge Joseph Mason for that 117-111 card. Absolutely fucking absurd. You wonder what he was watching last night. Obviously wasn't watching Maxi Hughes box.
Shout out to him. Ames, any nominations from you, please?
Yeah, echoing what Matty was saying about the judges and the Kambosos Hughes fight. Also, this kind of the social media influencer scene, like I know like press conferences stuff, they flirt the line of things you can say and you can do and kind of stuff is permitted when in usual kind of social circumstances it's not permitted. But in this last iteration of the Misfits boxing event, you had one competitor throwing hot dogs at another competitor who was of a religious faith, where maybe that's not the best decision to be throwing.
Yeah, that was fucking outrageous.
I thought that was ridiculous. The zone did the right thing to pull that fight from the card, but I think that at that point that went too far the line. So maybe it's not
race to the bottom, Ames. Whenever you're in shock content scene,
that was certainly very poor. So maybe it's not quite a belly of the week thing, but still, like that was really poor. That was.
Joe, any from you, please?
No, just echo Andy's on Eddie and Sky. I think that's amateur stuff. I think that's going in the wrong direction. Probably something we'll catch up with Mr. Hills on that soon enough. I think someone in the chat was saying that if Sky also fancies the eye of a younger boxer, there might be a difficult position that Eddie will be in when he's competing with one of his boxers for the attention of young Sky. So,
well, if Sky fancies a younger boxer, it's only natural she, you know what I mean, she get fed up with the old. What are we talking about here?
It's happening. It's gonna happen. It's there to happen.
The only boxing on Sky at the moment, in it? Shalom, pull his finger out, man. Sorry. Thank you, Joe. Matt Butters, any from you?
No from me tonight, lads. Thank you.
Nothing from Matt, nothing from Oz.
All right, Ozzy.
Rob.
No, it was Cali for me. Like just before you play that clip, I had watched the whole thing. I fucking was falling asleep. I always kind of fall asleep, like watching boxing videos in a saddle. But I was falling asleep in the background. I was like, "Am I DMT tripping here, or what the fuck is going on?" Like, and I had to wake back up and listen to Cali's rant about the future of tag team boxing as Ames was putting him under. That must have been a tough one for Ames. Let's not fuck. I don't want to put you on the spot. Obviously, that's your fucking. You know what I mean?
That wasn't me. It wasn't me.
That was IFL.
No, it wasn't Ames. Oh, sorry. Okay. I can't tell the difference between.
Trying to say all these interviewers are the same, Bob.
Yeah, they're all the fucking same to me. No, but the Cali one was a tough watch, dude. That was a hard one. Like, and then there was something else. Oh, fucking 0-1 professional boxer Conor McGregor got into a scrap in Birkenhead at a funeral, didn't he? And in typical McGregor fashion, got on Twitter to leave a voice note impersonating the viral clip that was showing him leaving the venue, and he was just on the voice note going, "Murder, Scousers on the collie." And McGregor's run Birkenhead, yeah.
There were no rumours he was in the bog for about half an hour with this woman as well.
He's fallen for it, let's just say. And I saw a brilliant meme going around to see that one where he's like,
getting the bogs for a quickie, man, eh?
You gotta fucking get in where you fit in. He's fucking 400 million and just go around doing it in beds. You gotta fucking broaden your horizons. Do you see the clip of him behind his own bar and he's like shadowboxing, and someone memed it and they were like, "Can we make come back to the gaff? He's harmless." And then it's like the mate, and it's just him like fucking shadowboxing behind the bar. Like, that's pretty good. So yeah, not quite enough week, like, but yeah, Cali for me.
It'd be amazing if he like fucked his hands on like one of the pumps or whatever, like, was or one of the bowls was in the fucking bar.
Fuck's sake. Right, all the boys' nominations there have been thrown in. Let's have a quick recap and then we'll go over who's picking who. We had Floyd there getting dressed in the dark again. We had Teofimo Lopez distancing himself from his old man. We had Donny being distanced from the rest of the family. We had Bomac just for being Bomac. And then here he is with the boys. There's Fat Dan and Big Boss John. We had Eddie, don't call it a midlife crisis. Accused of not paying somebody. It might be this kind of a midlife crisis if he's not careful. We had the Quote going in on the girl exposing herself. We had Audley Harrison visualising what would have happened if he'd have fought Deontay Wilder and the other lads. Josh Kelly against Tim Zhu. We had Isak Lowe. We had Josh Taylor. We had the Manny Pacquiao spectacle and the belt. We had John Fisher again. We had Keyshawn going to the ring. We had Matt Butters nominating world-renowned referee Steve Gray. We had the Gad. We had Tony Bellew. And then we had, right at the end, Callie Sauerland rather than Callie Maloney. And we had Nathan Cleverly of the church. Get yourself down to the church for a talk on sex this weekend. Quite the nominations there, Andy. Who are you going for?
What? Hold on, I missed that one. What the fuck?
What's that?
I was right at the start.
Nathan Cleverly's giving sex talks in the church.
Oh, do you want to listen to it, Rob?
Well, it might bring me back to the church. You know what I mean? I was just
Here we are then. Let's find out.
Hey guys, it's Kasia and Nathan here. We are in Victory Church today when everything good is happening. We have the sacred sexuality conference. We're talking about the most important topic, which is sex. We're talking about our kids in school, about the education, about the gender and the sex. We're talking about the truth. Isn't it? It's been really good. We have deliverance. You want to say anything, babe? Invite people.
Very good course. Sacred Sexuality Conference. Very good. Just lining everything up with the Bible, you know. What the Bible says about sexuality.
Sex and marriage, without the marriage.
And defining it in a biblical way. It's very good, very interesting. Holy.
I'm here, guys, every day for next 3 days, till Saturday next 2 days. 10 o'clock in the morning, there is breaks, it's going through all day, and then the last...
She's fishing for that wedding ring, yeah.
Yeah, he definitely believes in all those convictions, and he's not just there because he's got dragged along there. It's holy, he said. So fucking sexuality asylum coming soon.
You never know.
Tackling all the hot topics. Fuck me, it's holy. He said, brilliant. Well, that's enough for me. Sign me up.
Right, Andy, who are you going for this week?
I was going to go for Eddie, mate, because there was a multiple offences crime in there, but I think no, better no. We've already destroyed him tonight already, mate. So I'm going to go for Oscar, because I think this is going to be impressive. This documentary is going to come out with.
Yep, looking forward to that one, Matty. Who are you going for?
Keyshawn in the gimp suit.
Oh, Keyshawn in the gimp suit. It was all going so well for him. Who are you going for, Ems?
In what area of the metaverse is Audley Harrison visualizing winning and beating Usyk, and completing his visualizations against these fighters, with Usyk being the easiest to figure out of the Jesus. With that said, it's got to be Donny. With what area of the metaverse has Donny come up with that suit and fitted right into whatever celebration he's at? So yeah, for me, it's Donny.
I want to be an Easter egg.
No, man. He looks like he's a chief executive at the Dulux warehouse, isn't he?
Okay, Donny getting the nomination there. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, I'll second the Donny nomination. He looks like in the mask, but he doesn't have the mask anymore. He's got the green suit on, but he's just just looking suit on him. Like.
I wonder if his dad's Golovkin money paid for that suit.
Andy was trying to get him on next week. He's going to the fight.
Was he?
You can collect the money. You could collect the money to buy that suit and a cup on the corner on a good Saturday.
It looks like someone gave him that tie for a present at Christmas and he forgot to unwrap it before he put it on.
That was good. That's good.
Okay, thank you, Joe. That's 2 for Donald. Then Matt, who are you going for?
Yeah, I'm going to have to give a third for Donny as well. Because look at that fucking suit. I don't understand how a man can dress himself in the morning with a green suit jacket, pink trousers, and I don't even know what the fuck that tie is, and go, yep, that's me sorted for today.
Fucking killer. I've seen dressed up like this fucking Derek Trotter, and that was a fictional character on TV.
Someone better make sure Elton John is okay.
He looks like he stole Bishop Magic Don Juan's outfit, Donny, but he just forgot to put the hat on him. Pippin ain't easy, Donny, but it's sure is fun, baby.
Oh dear. Trilogy for Donny then, Matt?
Absolutely. I think one of the greatest trilogies of our time.
I tell you what, though, that tie, I just seen a great comment there. Bacteria tie. This looks like a petri dish type tie.
Someone else said he looked like a human wham bar.
It certainly looks like you'd catch something if you got near him.
Oh, poor Donny.
Do you know what? He's rocking it though. I give it to him. He's rocking it. He's better than something.
That's the thing. Don't give a fuck. You can wear whatever you want.
It's like Billy Connolly says, mate. He says it's like these big fat guys who get up in the morning to get dressed and look at someday at some point in their life they look at themselves in the mirror and they go, "Yeah, fucking killer, mate. Let's fucking go. Let's hunt the lassies then. Aye, fucking they bother, mate. Can't even get dressed like that."
Matty, what are you going to do if next week Donny comes out in that suit?
If he comes out in that suit, that's going to be fucking a different conversation.
in both meanings of the word.
Matty, I hope you may need a key for the bathroom door when you sleep in the bath.
I was going to say, you might have to lock him in the hotel. Just take his ticket, lock him in there.
I'll just become nocturnal and swim in the pool at night and sleep during the day.
Hide his clothes, Matty. It's like the old Ozzy Osbourne story, in it, when he was a raging alcoholic and hid all his clothes, stopping from going outside, and he puts on one of Sharon's dresses and high heels wandering down the road with a bottle of vodka in his hand.
Or just David did the poor Will Smith.
He's just walking down the road going, "This is an absolute disgrace."
Just stick all his clays. Just stick all his clays in the bath, fill with water, including his pants, so he's got nothing to wear really. Eh? Just fucking leave him.
Donnie won't go to the fight unless we get him 1,000 brown M&Ms.
Chuckery says, Wellings, is Ian John Lewis actually gay? Well, how the fucking hell am I supposed to know that?
How would you know, Steve?
What a random question.
Orlando Cruz might know.
Bullying Asylum.
Eh,
Oh,
not
for
bad.
goodness. Oh, is that not the real Chuck Crew? Oh, well, not to worry. So, anyway, Rob, who you go for?
What?
It's not the real Chuck Crew, apparently. It's a fake Chuck Crew.
Where are we?
Fuck woo.
Rob's picking his nomination for Value of the Week.
I'm gonna go for Oscar for telling with a dead straight face on the Breakfast Club that somebody whispered in his ear, tonight's the night, you're gonna get it, and that's why he had to leave the fucking Ryan Garcia fight. Fucking liar, man. That didn't happen. Asshole.
Oh, right, no.
Yeah. Oh, so Oscar for that one.
That's 2 for Oscar then.
fuck.
I was going to go for Cleverly, but looks like the clever one here is Donny in his suit. Congratulations. Hopefully we'll be able to drag him out. Get him on the call next week, Matty, to explain this.
So Steve, I have an early flight, and unless something changes, I might actually be here for the podcast. I think you're probably going to have to take hosting duties, but I
fine.
might be back home for it. So we might be reporting from both sides there.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much.
That sounded
Matty.
weird.
Yeah, no, we're all friends here. Look, you can speak
Reporting.
to mine, Matty. Absolutely. Congratulations to Donny for winning the Value of the Week, episode 532. Just before we get Rob's picks, in case I forget, shout out to the super chatters. Johnny threw in 79p. So did Chris One Shot Lovejoy. We got a couple of pairing from Alan Stacey. David Palmer threw in $4.99. Thank you to him. We had Ryan Deal throwing in 10 New Zealand dollars. We had John Mulhall again throwing in €12. And shout out to Declan Graffin, aka Declan Graffin. 1999. Bud gonna smoke them all. He can have the final word on that. Well, apart from when Rob Kelly jumps in, maybe you'll endorse that, or maybe you won't. Rob, Spence versus Crawford. Declan's had his say. Do you concur?
I do concur, and I'll keep it short because I know we're on Value of the Week, but I've been looking forward to this fight forever. Part of me used to think at the time when Bud first moved up to 47 that he was too small for Spence, because I always felt like Spence is a 54-pounder campaigning a 47. But just to keep it short and sweet, I think Earl Spence is a great fighter, but I think Bud Crawford is a special fighter, and that'll be the difference on the night. I think it's not going to be a chess match. I think neither of them can afford to let the fight turn into a chess match where they let too many rounds slip and the other one get momentum. So I think they're going to meet in the middle. But I just think Crawford has too much, and I think you have to go back a long way to see a chink in Crawford's armor. I think you can make an argument that the Kavaliauskas night might have had a knockdown called, but before that you got to go back to Gamboa, and I don't think you have to go back as recently as that to see Crawford or see Spence in trouble. He was in trouble against Ugas. Porter gave him a hell of a time. I know he probably wasn't training for any of those ones. He was living the life or whatever, but I just think with the inactivity, the car crash, all that, I just think small margins at the top level. I think Crawford's just going to find a way to win. I think he's going to look really, really convincing in Southpaw, and I'm actually backing him to get the stoppage. So I think I'm going to go for Crawford to stop him in the last third of the fight, believe it or not.
Crawford stoppage in the last third of the fight. Also, Rob, give us your opinion quickly on Fulton against Inoue over on Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I kind of wish all the fucking, if they were going to do something about the gloves, that they said it either when the fight was made or bring it up when they're wrapping his hands. I think before that, it's just fucking, because the fight will happen and the result will happen, and then the fans will forever argue the result and have conspiracy theories no matter which way it goes now from now. So I kind of wish that hadn't happened. I wish they had handled that differently. However, if they have genuine concerns, there's outlets for them to voice those concerns. I think Fulton is quite big. So Inoue is going up. We're going to have to see does the power carry up 4 weight divisions. Inoue so far in his career has been flawless. Hard to see a way to beat him, but he is going up in weight, and Fulton is very, very good as well. So I actually think this one actually might be the chess match that at some stage will catch fire. But I think ultimately Inoue by around 2 rounds in a close fight, about 115, 113.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks very much for Rapping Roll Kelly there giving his predictions. We are going to cut the Spence-Crawford and Inoue Fulton predictions for a separate podcast, so you can have your say on those as well if you want. If you want to jump on the call on Saturday evening beforehand, it's going to be a Nuthouse call. Danny Young is going to host. Absolutely, you're free to join if you want. The boys will be here as well. Patreon.com/Boxing Asylum. If you're not already there, jump in and you'll be able to get the StreamYard link. Thanks to Michael Thompson, who came on earlier. Thanks to Danny Young as well, and Ozzie Smith calling in from Portugal. We've had Rob Kelly on. We've had Matt Butters. We've had Joe Kennedy. We've had Tay Games. We've had Matty DiGialinardo. We've had Andy Patterson. I've been your host, Steve Wellings. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button on your way out. It's nearly 11 o'clock. 3 hours of absolutely free entertainment coming your way. Same time, same place. Next week, we'll be here. God willing. Bye-bye, everybody.